Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in, everybody, as we begin another week here on the Sports Fix, live Monday. Stretching it out, yawning it out, getting ready to rock and roll here as the weekend. We shake off the doldrums and get rolling. It's the, a lot of things this week. There's some Indian spring training getting into full effect here coming up. Let's see what else we got coming up here in the next couple. Oh, a contest. You know what? I'm going to start off the show telling you guys about that one here in just a few minutes. Of course, we've got the usual fun and madness that comes on a Monday edition of the Sports Fix and so much more. Let's get right. Hey, listen, man. It may be 0 degrees outside, but we're going to warm it up here today on the Sports Fix. Welcoming you guys across the Sports Fix radio network. Maybe you're joining us again in your usual spot. Maybe you're here for the first time today, live, noon, Eastern, whether you're listening on TuneIn or TuneIn's radio app worldwide. Perhaps you're enjoying the show on Spreaker, Mixler, and their respective digital and mobile apps, or right on our home base, thesportsfix.net, beaming right from the heavens there off of the home base, as we call it. The mothership, if you will, thesportsfix.net. No matter how you're enjoying the show live, thank you guys for doing it. Perhaps you're listening, one of the thousands around the world, 24 hours a day, listening in digital delay on sites such as iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, downloading us there, on Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, SoundCloud, all of the different podcast and MP3 download, subscribe, feed them, whatever you do it, technological doohickeys to listen to the show. Thank you guys for doing it. The big daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, that's me. You are you, but I can't know who you are unless you're a part of the show, because that's how we do this thing, man. This is your show. We do the Sports Fix thing together. Pick up the phone. That's the easiest way to do it. And give us a call, live or anytime, 24/7 if you're new to the game here. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. The number to call. Can't get through, or if we're not taking calls, like I said, or perhaps you're listening, in Timbuktu, halfway around the world. And shout out to our audience in Timbuktu, by the way. If you are over there, you can hit us up 24/7 on the hotline. We'll play your takes on the next show. 216-539-7535. Can't do the social media, or can't do the phone, do the social media thing there. I'm a step ahead of myself today. Facebook and Twitter, you know how to do it. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Twitter @thesportsfixCLE. You can always email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And you know what? There's random other social media sites. I think you can find us on, we're out there on all kinds of, we've got every demographic covered. We've got the Pinterest people covered. There's some Google Plus out there. So I don't know. Ron Graham helps handle all of that stuff. But Facebook and Twitter, I'm in charge of those. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us @thesportsfixCLE. Going to talk about all the news of the weekend, the All-Star stuff. Going to talk, hey, man, I'll tell you what, the NBA miscalculated last night, by the way. I don't know what they were thinking looking at the calendar, because it's not very often that big sporting events get overshadowed on social media the way the NBA All-Star Game did last night because of Saturday Night Live on a Sunday night. But anyways, we'll talk about that in a minute. I had some fun watching that. I don't know about you guys. So first segment of the show, we may go off the beaten trail here a little bit, as we tend to do. But we'll talk about the weekend. We'll talk about the All-Star, things coming out of New York. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fans is going to join us. A lot of hoops, not just NBA All-Star, Buckeyes hoops, Vikings hoops this weekend. We'll talk some Indians, baseball. Dan Wismar in the house. Monsters. Talk a little Floyd Mayweather and PacMan and all kinds of stuff. The news of the weekend. Let's do what we do. But I want to start off by telling you guys the big news. I've been teasing you all weekend. Tune in Monday. We're not even going to make you wait. I'm going to explain everything right off the bat, as I am proud to announce the second annual. It's the 2015 version of the Sports Fix Tribe Trivia Challenge. My buddy Bruce Wood over at the Morning Wood helped put this thing together. It's going to be pretty cool. Last year we did it, had a lot of fun with it, and what we do is it's 10 days, 10 shows, 10 questions. It's very easy. Well, the questions aren't easy, but the format is very easy. 10 shows, 10 questions. Now, this year we're going to tweak it, make it a little bit even more competitive. Last year, literally, you had to answer all 10 questions correctly just to even be entered. And we ended up with all kinds of staggered responses. Some people answered all 10. Some people answered 7 of them. Some people only listened on certain days. Some people thought you only had to answer once. So we're going to simplify it. It's still the same basic idea. Every correct answer gets you an entry into the hat. Now, the hat doesn't matter, by the way. That's just a tiebreaker. Every correct answer goes in your favor. Whoever answers the most questions correctly wins. If you're the only person that gets all 10 correct, then you win. If you're the only person that got 9 and nobody, whatever it is, you win. However, if there is a tie, because obviously there's a limited number of questions. If there's a tie, that's where we will go to a random drawing from all the people with the highest score to win. But it actually sounds a lot more complicated now that I just said it like that than it is. Answer the questions. Most right answers wins. It's that simple. Here's the catch. You have to listen to the Sports Fix. Plain and simple. There will be no... Now, I cannot control what's done outside of my barriers, but we will not be posting the questions on any of our social media sites. We will not be reposting them. The only place that you can hear the question each and every day is here live on the show. Some days I'll answer, or I'll give the question right off the bat to start the show. Some days, however, it's going to be our guests who are going to provide the question. Maybe Dan Wismar, maybe Mike Brandenberry, maybe Jeff Gorman. So each day at the beginning of the show, I will let you guys know at what portion of the show we're going to question, and that's it. It's that simple. You listen, you answer, and you enter, and you win. That's it. What do you win? What will you win? Last year, it was the awesome Dennis Eckersley Cleveland Indians, Fire Engine Red. Mike Brandenberry loves those red jerseys. Indians, throwback, Cooperstown Classic. This year, right in the same vein, 1972, Gaylord Perry, Cleveland Indians, Cooperstown collectible jersey. You cannot beat that. If you know Cleveland Indians history, you can literally, physically win a piece of Cleveland Indians history. You can't beat that one. First question comes tomorrow. We begin the contest tomorrow. It's going to run right up until Monday, March 2nd, the last day of spring training before the first spring training game. So we're going to warm you up, lead you right up into the first spring training game with this. On Tuesday, March 3rd, exactly 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will come on the air, we'll announce the winner, and it'll be time for the Indians to start playing some baseball. Even though that baseball doesn't count, it counts more than the baseball they're playing today, if you know what I'm saying. So I'll take it, move up ahead, and we'll keep it going. So that's how this is going to work. The first question is tomorrow. It's the second annual Tribe Trivia Contest here. The Sports Fix, the Morning Wood, teaming up to bring it to you, and it's tomorrow. The first question will come your way live right here when we kick off the show, and then it's off and running. Get all 10 right, you've guaranteed yourself at least a tie for first place, and then hopefully you're the only one that gets it. I know last year nobody got all, well, except for the winner, Charles Morgan. There were a lot of people that came close to getting all 10, and some of them didn't even enter. And this is why I tweaked it, by the way, because I talked to people afterwards, and some people were literally like, oh, man, I listened every day, but I only entered the ones that I knew. I didn't realize that I had to enter every day. I would have looked it up. I would have Google searched it. Cheaters, by the way. But anyways, I would have looked it up. I would have entered, and I felt bad because obviously there was some miscommunication. So let's make it a little more easy for everybody to understand. 10 days, 10 questions, 10 answers. Get as many of them right as you can. The most correct answers wins a Cooperstown collectible 1972 Cleveland Indians home white Gaylord Perry jersey. And that's going to come your way, courtesy of the Sports Fix and the Morning Wood. So Indians fans, get those brains turning, those gears churning, because tomorrow, question number 1 is going to come your way. And then all you'll do, by the way, because I don't think I mentioned it, you'll email your answers each day. It's very simple. You'll just email your answers to us, and we'll compile them that way, just like we did last year, thesportsfix@AOL.com. So off and running tomorrow, you guys, with the trivia contest. I cannot wait to get this thing going. Should be a lot of fun. And share the, although I always laugh when I tell people to share the love about contests, I always get, and it makes sense when people go, well, to be honest with you, I don't want to tell anybody else about it, because the more people that are in, the less chance for me to win. You are correct, but let's just pretend that we'll just ignore that part of it. Spread the word, you guys. If you know other Indians fans that want to have some fun with this, or perhaps you know somebody that hasn't experienced Jimi Hendrix. Are you experienced with the Sports Fix? Perhaps they haven't experienced what we do. It's a good way to transition some new people over. You go, hey, hook them with the contest, and then maybe we'll reel them in with a little bit of the old Sports Fix thing that we do. So spread the word. We're going to do a lot of promotion on Facebook and Twitter. Retweet those, repost them if you can. Share the love for us, get it out there, and we're going to bring it back to you. Again, can't wait. I love it. Last year's was fun. And last year's we went all Cleveland trivia, by the way. We went into all different sports, some cool stuff. This year, I think I could be wrong, but my intention is to keep it all Cleveland Indians themed. The thing is I try to find stuff that's not the everyday stuff. Occasionally you got to have some of those, but I want you to have to work for it a little bit. Plus, the side benefit is, even if you don't win, you come away, and I did get this a lot from people last year, learning some things that you didn't know about the Cleveland sports teams, which was one of the cool side benefits of it too last year. So we'll talk some more about it tomorrow. We'll kick it off tomorrow, to be exact, and it's on. Tribe Trivia Contest coming your way tomorrow, guys. Be ready for that. Cannot wait. And let's roll. All right, let's get rolling here. Looking back at the weekend, and man, blew through already. We're already up until the first break here. I'm not going to go on long about this, but I said right before I announced the contest, I think the NBA miscalculated when they planned their NBA All-Star weekend this year, man. I don't know how far in advance SNL 40 was planned. To be honest with you, I don't know who had their date locked in first. But usually when they're, even though, look, you guys know I'm not the All-Star game guy, although I did watch it. I'm not going to lie. I DVR'd it. The All-Star game did not go live with me last night, and I know I'm not the only one. I know sports broadcasting people who did the same thing that I did, man. So I know that there's a little bit of more effect than it usually has, because usually sporting events hold up good, particularly in their social media interaction. My timeline last night was dyslexic, man. It couldn't make up its mind if it was watching Saturday Night Live or the All-Star game. And the fact that some people, I believe younger people that don't know any better, will tell you how exciting that game was last night. That was perhaps the worst All-Star game of all. They get worse every year, and I'll tell you why. Because you can show me about record-setting points and all you want, and I get it. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and yell about them not playing defense, but not playing defense and not playing defense are two different things, man. I would click over during the commercials of SNL, and I would catch 30 seconds, 60 seconds live here and there, and just watching them olay around. And Kyrie Irving, every bit as guilty as the rest of them. On one shot, it was Thompson or Curry, one of the Golden State guys, nails a three-pointer. Kyrie's supposed to be guarding him. I'm not joking. The shooters on the right 3-point side of the line. And Kyrie's over on the left elbow by the foul line. That's how far away he is switching over on defense, walking over to his guy. It was, hey, it's cool, man. They want it that way. They want it to be ultra high powered. There were more points scored by halftime than in most basketball games in the NBA this season. More power to you. That's cool. And I did get, hey, All-Star Saturday night I thought was better than it usually is, to be honest. And we'll talk some more about that in the next segment. But yeah, man. Anyways, that miscalculation as far as I'm considering it, because SNL 40 was a pretty big deal. And I'll tell you, like I said, that was my live viewing last night. No doubt about it. I will not even come here and pretend that I watched something else. And by the way, did you guys watch that? Forget the All-Star game for a minute. We're gonna get back into that, obviously, and talk some more about the basketball part of it. But did you guys watch SNL 40? Those of you listening to us here, maybe you were like me. Maybe you were going back and forth. Maybe you recorded one or the other. Last night it was, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed the majority of that, 3.5 hours long, and I enjoyed the majority of it. Number one is I was always a big Saturday Night Live fan. From the time my friends first introduced it to me midway through the 80s or something like that, and I came into it right in the tail end of the Eddie Murphy and, Piscopo, that era of guys, and into the 90s, which is when it was, just chock full, much like the early days, just a fodder and a feeding ground for the best young comedians. And I thought the opening montage summed that show up perfectly. If you watched it, it was like 5-6 minutes long, and they went through the entire history chronologically, showing all the best skits and the best highlights and stuff. And my son and I are watching it, and I feel bad for my son. He lives in today's Saturday Night Live, which is garbage. Sorry, the occasional sports spoof that they do is funny. Every once in a while, like Jim Carrey, because Jim Carrey is funny. So intrinsically, he was going to be funny when he was spoofing what's his name on the videos. Oh, come on, now I'm forgetting it. Driving around doing the car commercials. But occasionally, other than when they hit pop culture right, to me, the whole new generation, the last 15 years is whatever. But the video was that, because I'm going through it, and I know all the characters. I know all the lines. I had my son rolling. My son, Jerry, he's 16 and a half, and he was just rolling because I knew all of them. I got a fever. And the only prescription, you know what I mean? It's more cowbell, baby. And so anyways, but then you get to the last 90 seconds or so of that thing, and it stopped being funny. It stopped being funny because it hit the modern Saturday Night Live, which is just not funny compared to its predecessors. That show has been dying a slow death for the last, like I said, decade and a half or so. But man, to go back in the time machine, Dan Aykroyd, he went back and did the Bass-O-Matic live. That was tremendous. You can get the whole bass. That's right, the whole bass. Right? It's just great, man. And then he even had the live snafu of he put 2 fish in the Bass-O-Matic and hit the button and it wouldn't go because he stuck it on a fish head, and he just sat there. He knew how to go with it. It was great. Live TV, you can't beat it. That's one of the best things about it. But some things, just watching that thing, Chevy Chase, a lot of people making jokes mockingly. I'm saying what I'm about to say seriously, man. Chevy Chase struck me as a guy that is not in good health, especially on the red carpet. If you saw that, you guys, he was not just sweating, which I get. You're moving around fast and all of that stuff. But at one point, he was slurring his words and wiping some drool off of the side of his face. And I don't know if he noticed that the camera caught it or not, but I caught it. And I love Chevy Chase. I love those comedians. The original Saturday Night Live comedians, man. Look at they ended up shaping, the comedy of the 80s, those guys. Well, the ones that survived anyways. But I was worried about Chevy. I prefer to remember Christmas Vacation Chevy Chase, man. But, I get aging and putting on weight and all of that. I'm not mocking any of that like some nasty folks on Twitter were, but I was worried health-wise about Chevy Chase, seeing him last night, man. Some of those guys, timeless. Steve Martin, I'm telling you, man, Steve Martin just never ages, looks the same. I'll tell you what was hilarious to me was Eddie Murphy had no interest in being there whatsoever. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but he didn't. You could tell. He came out on the stage. Chris Rock gave him the greatest introduction. Introduced him as this pioneer. And it's true. He carried in that transition from the 70s to the late 80s. He carried that thing, man. Saturday Night Live, and while he was branching out, still making his movie. Anyways, Chris Rock set it up perfectly with this incredible introduction, and then Eddie Murphy came out and said, "Wow, this is great. Man, what a great show. Let's have some more show." And then he looked at the camera and said, "Why are you still recording?" And I said, "That's it. Go to commercial. Let's do it again." And then he was like basically saying, "Hi, bye. Why are you still rolling? I told you I'm not telling no jokes." He wasn't coming out there to tell no jokes. He wasn't doing Gumby. He wasn't doing Buckwheat. He was not going back to his Saturday Night Live days at all. In that one, that was a token appearance for sure. That one disappointed me a bit because I thought for sure that it was going to be a little bit more than that. But anyways, I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool. They did some cool montages to mix in some live stuff, to mix in the old characters and the new characters and the weekend update guys. I thought it was cool. It also showed just how far off the beaten trail Saturday Night Live is gone. And you know what? It was all downhill from Celebrity Jeopardy, by the way. They started off with the best, no doubt about it. And when you bring back Sean Connery and let's hits now for 200, that's all I'm going to say. And that was pretty funny stuff, you guys. But I thought it was a miscalculation by the NBA, I think, miscalculating the bite that was going to take, even though the NBA's ratings were good. I think it was the highest rated All-Star game yet. That's every year because the number of people watching goes up. But I think it would have been even bigger had that not happened. So, I don't know, whatever. But it's weird because usually there's not a big bite. Even on social media, it's heavily, and you got to realize, I follow or interact with a huge percentage of sports people. My timeline, the biggest side comment that I saw up and down was, I'm supposed to be watching the All-Star game, but I'm watching SNL 40, man. And, again, a lot of people feel the way they do about All-Star games to begin with, but that was a big one. That wasn't just like, oh, hey, it's a special episode of Saturday Night Live. And so, I don't think the NBA – maybe they didn't see it coming. Maybe they had everything locked in stone and then SNL dropped that on them. But it definitely took a bite out of things, and I ended up having to stay up in the middle of the night and watch the NBA All-Star game, which, let me tell you, was a whole lot of fun. Watching guys run up and down the court and it was practice. It was live practice with superstars was what we were watching. And that's, hey, some people get into that and some people don't. I'm one that doesn't. But we will talk about the game, highest scoring game. Kyrie Irving LeBron James passes Michael Jordan for the second highest total points scored and all kinds of things in this. It was a defenseless game, but it was definitely an exciting game for basketball fans. Not just that. I actually will say this. I did get into the All-Star weekend stuff a little bit more because I thought the 3-point was fantastic. And you know what? LaVine and Oladipo put a little something into the dunk contest, even though it's still... we'll talk about that. Let's talk All-Star Weekend, talk Cavaliers in All-Star Weekend. Not a ton of talk about the game, but we'll talk some NBA here. Some news coming out of it as well. Amari Stoudemire, Cavs fans already talking a little Stoudemire. We'll get into that here in a little bit here. Talk about that. Larry Sanders, too. Some guys it's buyout time here. It's trade deadline time, buyout time. This will be an interesting week here, although I don't see any Cavaliers interest in Amari at all. But we'll talk about all of that, all of the NBA stuff coming out of this weekend as they now get a couple of days off before they jump back into the second half of the season. They've got a trade deadline coming up this week as well. Let's do that when we come back, talk some hoops. Dan Wismar is going to join us in a little bit and so much more. We've only just got rolling here on the Sports Fix, baby, and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere, baby. Talking some All-Star Weekend next, live on The Fix.
That's the way, I like it. That's the way, I like it. When I get to...
This is the Sports Fix.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
They call me Mr. Pitt.
We'll call you whatever you like, as long as we can call you a fan of the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy? Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor was because of this city. We owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
They're playing basketball without that basketball. They're playing basketball.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. And, they were playing some basketball last night at the All-Star game. Well, they were playing half of the game of basketball anyway. I mean, they said, we're not going to bring the whole game, but, we'll bring the offensive side with us. They were playing half a game of basketball. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on with the first hour of the show. And what's funny is all my interaction during the break, nobody talking about the All-Star game. Everybody's like, hey, man, yeah, that Saturday Night Live you were talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I even left a ton of stuff out. By the way, I'm just going to say, we got it a little, we're getting cheated nowadays. They show all those clips of the old days. The first Saturday Night Live, the special guest was George Carlin. And we got Kanye and Miley last night. What was up with that, by the way? Kanye West showed up to Saturday Night Live 40 and said, you know what? I want to, Justin Timberlake's talking about things in a box. I want to sing in a box. put me in a little box. I want to sing on my knees. The first song he did laying down on his back. It was great. And anyways, it was terrible. Now, you have to stink. And I'm sorry, I'm offending all the whatever he calls himself, Yeezus fans out there. But brother, let me tell you, when you're out of tune on auto-tune, find a new line of work. That's all I'm saying, man. When you're out of tune on auto-tune, there's problems all over the place. But how about, by the way, Bill Murray, too, last night? I just keep going back to it, man. And somebody hit me up with that one. I said, yeah, you're right. I didn't even mention that one. Singing the love theme to Jaws. You've got to love the lounge singer act there from back in the day, man. But anyway, back to the show. Hey, you guys want to watch it, go back and watch it. This is a sports show, so I do have to at least pretend to feign interest in the NBA All-Star game last night. Like I said, I was digging. I did watch Saturday night, and I watched the whole game. I just didn't watch it live. They lost the battle last night with the DVR and Saturday Night Live. That's all. They lost the battle last night, and that's hard to do when it's my job to watch the games and talk about it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to be up late tonight anyway, so I might as well watch the game later, and that's what I did. So, but the All-Star stuff, the other stuff was good. Rising Stars game the other night. Oh, yeah, that Wiggins guy was the MVP of that, by the way, because he can't play no basketball. He'll be able to play in 5 years, but he can't play no basketball right now, that Andrew Wiggins fella that just keeps doing things. But we don't need to go there right now. I have fun with that. I have fun with people that have had that argument with me. But it started off there with Wiggins, and of course Dellavedova played in that one there. Actually, Delly only the third undrafted player to participate there. So that's a good thing for him. Good accomplishment coming up from where he came up with to get himself into those kind of even conversations. I don't do a whole lot with the skills and the earlier stuff on Saturday night. The main stuff, like you guys, the 3-point, the slam dunk contest. The slam dunk contest has not been any good to me in forever. I mean, forever. The 3-point contest always held, I guess, the truest with me because that's a true skill competition. I mean, you'll always, as long as the field is good, it's those years that all the best 3-point shooters aren't in it that I'm like, whatever, man, this is a vanilla contest this year. But when you get the good ones in it, it cannot help but be good because you got good shooters and they're, it's the natural competition. Like, I thought this one here was great. I mean, the final three coming out of the first round, you get Kyrie and his two boys from Golden State. Yeah, Curry and Thompson. I knew right then and there that Kyrie wasn't going to win. Even though Kyrie was hot in the first round, I texted a buddy of mine and I said, he'll beat one of them. He's not going to beat both of them, especially after his score when he had to go first of the three and he put up his score. I said, no way. I said, maybe one of those two doesn't reach Kyrie, but there's no way both of them don't. But man, that was a good little competition there for sure. Kyrie finished in second place for that one. Steph Curry, just unbelievable. That kid, the way he strokes the ball. And that's the next generation of this game, man, is guys like that, man. And I like that. That brings the skill back and that's why he stands out so much more too, because of that. You know what was funny too? If you guys saw across social media, the NBA and some different places had tweeted out some pics of Curry now sitting on the bench, and then Curry 15 years ago or whatever, sitting on the bench when his dad was there. And it's so funny because in the face, he's still so young looking. You can totally see the face right there. He must have been, 6, 8. Oh, he's a little one in these pictures that I saw. But pretty cool stuff there to see it span the generation and come back. And hey, man, representing, born in Akron. So there you go. But that was good stuff. And then the dunk contest. Look, I'm not the biggest fan, especially because it was funny. They overdo. You had Anthony Anderson over there, and they're pretending to take the scores from the judges. But the judges' score pads, they had to give them all iPads. And look, some of these guys couldn't even figure out how to put their score on the iPad. First time around, everybody puts their iPads up, and you can't see it because nobody took into consideration the reverse glare that comes when you put one camera onto a screen, like when you try to record and there's a TV in the background or a computer screen. Have you ever noticed that it changes the screen on on the replay when you watch it back because of the whatever reverse glare, whatever it is. So they all held up their iPads with scores, and the first thing my son said is, oh, they can't just write it on the board. I said, no, of course we got to plug the iPads because they're a sponsor of the show, or Surface Pro or whatever they were, the little tablet devices. None of their numbers showed. All you saw was 5 guys with green screen. Well, excuse me, you saw like 3 guys with green screens because 2 of them couldn't figure out how to put their score on it. I was rolling. Was it Nate Archibald was one of them? And Dr. J was having trouble with his down there too. So they tried to go with the iPads for the first dunk or two, and then somebody just smartly slid all the guys the whiteboards, and they all wrote their score or had the number on the thing and held it up. But it was a physical version, and they dumped the iPad after about 2 rounds of the dunk contest, which was pretty funny. And at first it was ticking me off anyway, because it was what always happens. Every judge puts up the same number. Everything's exactly the same. It's just, whatever, man. The dunk, it's hard to keep doing new stuff. But let me put those words back in my mouth, because I will say Victor Oladipo and Zach LaVine went to town. Both of them actually hit a couple of dunks. I mean, I was watching it with my son. Once we got past the 3-point contest, my finger was on the trigger. I was sitting there, and anytime I said, all right, man, I'm going to go see what else is on. I can't remember what we were going back and forth with, but then it got better, and I'll give him that, man. And 19-year-old kid, Zach LaVine's got some hops, that's for sure. And so those guys brought a little bit of thunder into it, put a little bit of excitement. I said, okay. I said, now if you had, this is like 1 and 2 guys in the group here. Now if the whole competition was guys doing this, okay, they can get a little bit into it, man. But even then, it becomes, they were showing the clips of some of the great ones, the great dunks from over the years in the contest, and you go back and look and you see, go all the way back to, Larry Nance's and, Jordan in the early ones and stuff like that. It's still different, man. When you go back and watch some of those ones, I know, I get it. These guys do 540s and all these triple Lindy's and all that stuff, man, but there was something artistic about, the way Jordan went from the foul line with that. It wasn't just the length of the dunk. It was the art in the air. Iconic. Sometimes I wonder in the future, and you never want to get stuck into being that guy, even if you can put the bass and the whole bass into the Bass-O-Matic. I'm just kidding. Had to throw that back to earlier, man. And but seriously, guys, maybe that's me living in the past with that. But it's boring to me every year. And the way they did it last year, I didn't care much for it. This year here, whatever. I got into some of the pageantry. You gotta dig the Space Jam thing. That's what you have to do, because who's coming out here to scientifically break down the dunk contest? Put a little character into it or whatever. But I'm not gonna go nuts on it. But I will say, better than usual. Maybe, just maybe, they could bring back the dunk contest. And what I mean by that is actually make people care about it again, because you get 4 Zach LaVines, you get 2 more guys like Oladipo and LaVine doing it next year. Oh, you may have some fun. 3-point contest, they need to aim for a group like they had this year every year. Get all the top shooters, and it definitely increased the interest to me. Then you switched over to Sunday, and like I said, your big classic ended up on DVR because I had to watch the Saturday Night Live thing first. But just whatever. High scoring, record scoring. You expect that in a game like this. What was it? Westbrook shot 20. How do you get off 28 shots in an all-star game? That's a lot of shots. That's a lot of shots to get off in a game, let alone in an all-star game. Russell Westbrook was the MVP. He scored 41 points on 16 of 28 shooting for the West yesterday as they won this game by 5 points. LeBron started hot, had a good game as well. He had 30 points on 11 of 21 shooting. And I'll tell you, you look at the East, you look at the shot breakdown, man. You had a whole bunch of guys that took a couple shots and then a whole bunch of guys that took a bunch of shots. It was a bit more equitable on the other side. But I would have went, by the way, I'm not going to argue this because it's a meaningless game. I would have gave James Harden the MVP and not Westbrook, because Harden had 29 points, but he also had 8 assists. So he was actually responsible for almost a dozen points more than Westbrook was in the game. Plus, he did it on 11 of 16 shooting. He had a very economical shooting night, had some steals and rebounds, and Harden had 8 boards as well. So, but, I mean, who cares? It's the MVP of the All-Star game, and it is what it is. But highest scoring game by halftime, the score was higher than most NBA games, and that to be expected. Like I'm telling you, I can sum it up in no defense, all offense, and that's what they want, I guess. To me, I know that's what they think the fans want to see. They want to see the guys go out there and do what they do. But if you can't do it against the best, then are you really as good as they hype you up to be? And that's what I mean by that. Like, well, if we're all playing lockdown defense, then the fans get robbed out of see. How? If you're good, then you should be able to do your thing, even if the other team's trying to. You're just saying, well, we kind of have to go easy on defense because this is what the fans want to see. I disagree. I think the fans would much rather see Russell Westbrook's getting hot. So here comes, I'm just going to use Kyrie as an example. Here comes Kyrie Irving rolling up his sleeves and saying, all right, I'm going to stop this guy this time. And then the next 3 or 4 possessions, you get that little one-on-one matchup. And it's like, Kyrie Irving, he refuses to let Westbrook score. That's a million times more intriguing to me than just run up and down and run and gun, you know? I mean, I know this is a totally different scenario. I still point back. My favorite All-Star game of all time was the Magic Johnson one because that was in my youth, and that was when I was all into that one. Big young hoops fan when Magic was retired and then got voted in and then came in. And then at the end of the game, you had the little one-on-ones. And I thought that was those things. Okay, you're not locked down, NBA Finals defense, but like those are the things people want to see in an All-Star game. Like, okay, I'm going to take your turn now, and here Michael's going to guard Magic, and he's going to hit a 3 in his face, and then Larry's going to guard him, and he's going to hit a 3 in his face, and here comes Isaiah, and one-on-one matchups, but the actual matchups, not like, oh, here, let's let LeBron dunk, and then, oh, now it's time to let Harden come down on the other end, and oh, maybe we should let him give up an alley-oop here on this one. Whatever. Either way, big celebration of the game. It is what it is, man. You don't need to put it up on a pedestal and say, oh, they besmirched the All-Star game. I'm not going to be that guy. It just falls number 2 on my choice if Saturday Night Live 40 happens to be on. Now, next year, if there's no Saturday Night Live 40, maybe they get to go live. Or maybe they go back on DVR. I don't know. Either way, for basketball, for the NBA, it's their mid-season celebration of their game. Cool stuff. 2 different arenas in the New York, New Jersey area. Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball, home for the game. And I will tell you this. How does Carmelo Anthony justify going and putting up 13 3-pointers, shooting 20 shots, being out there for 30 minutes in the All-Star game, and then coming up this week and shutting it down for the rest of the season because he's got to get better for next year? Because that's what all the talk has been, is after the All-Star break, Carmelo Anthony's going to shut it down for the rest of the season so he can get healthy for next year. How can you be out there running up and down the court for 30 minutes, gunning and running and gunning and running and running and gunning, and then go stand out there and tell your fans, well, I'm shutting it down for the rest of the season? Didn't he kind of box himself into a corner there by playing? I mean, that's obviously you can ball if you want to ball, you know. So, all right, guys, we'll talk some more about that. No, actually, we won't. That's probably going to be the last All-Star game. I'm used to saying we'll pick this up later, but that'll probably be the last All-Star game conversation for a while, unless you guys want to bring it up. If you do, feel free to hit us up, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Actually, hit me up anyway. Where are you at with the All-Star game and stuff? Did it make your number 1? Was it your DVR, or have you not even did you not even tune that thing in? I don't know. There's some people that said that too. Plus, I had my son rolling as I hear the music in the background. Had my son dying last night singing. I mean, he couldn't believe that I knew the words to "Be Like Mike," like word for word. I'm like, son, let me tell you, you're neglected. Your era is you're just unfortunately unfortunate, because we had the good stuff, man. Be Like Mike, baby. Yeah, but anyways, we're just having some fun last night between Be Like Mike and teaching him about Saturday Night Live, and then going, see that guy? That's a new guy. That's the old guy. Yeah, well, he's not funny. Exactly, son. But enough of that. Be Like Mike, baby. Speaking of, LeBron passed Michael Jordan, as I said earlier, to become the number 2 leading scorer next year. I believe it's a deuce. I believe he's a bucket away from taking over for Kobe Bryant. 3 points is where he's at. Michael Jordan, 262 career All-Star game points. LeBron now has 278. He's now in second place. Kobe Bryant has 280 career points in the All-Star game. So next year, the story, you'd almost think they wrote it like a book. Next year, the story starts off, the first bucket of the game for LeBron James ties him as the leading scorer in All-Star game history. Man, you'd almost think they wrote it that way. All right, guys, let's pick up from there. You know, some more hoops this weekend besides the All-Star game. How about the Vikes? It was a big weekend, by the way, for the Vikings here this past weekend. And some good, some bad. A couple of that game with Detroit the other day, Friday night, wrapped up my game, and then got a chance to catch just the last few seconds. Speaking of NBA players, the son of one, Juwan Howard Jr. Remember Juwan Howard, the Fab Five? His son plays for the Titans of Detroit. Hit a three-pointer, a 30-footer, 5 seconds left. Vikings got the ball, had a chance, had a shot with that final 4.5 seconds. Charlie Lee in and out at the buzzer, and the Vikings knocked off by Detroit. That was a tough one to lose there because you don't want to lose to the middle teams there. You can't lose to the teams underneath you down the stretch. Although to me, I saw some people, some Vikings bloggers that I read their stuff, just going into panic mode. Oh, the February swoon has begun for the Vikings. They're not going to win the regular season. I don't care if they win the regular season title or not. Almost every year, I'll watch a team win the regular season Horizon League title and not be the team that wins the Horizon League tournament. I'd much rather they win that. But yeah, a little bit of struggle in the last couple of weeks for the Vikes. They've got to keep that focus tight as they've got this last stretch to come. And, you know, they've got some things in their favor with the schedule. They got Valpo down, I think it's the last game of the season. But Vikings were able to bounce right back yesterday, 67-59. It was Celebrate Seniors Day for the Vikings, and they hit double-digit wins in the conference there for the 7th time in 8 years. Vikings, 16-11 overall, now 10-3 in the league. They are 1 game behind Valpo in the Horizon League. Valpo's 11-2 in the HL. Vikings are 10-3, and remember, they will play each other, so that is something to keep in mind. Valpo was able to win yesterday, and then you've got Green Bay. The Phoenix are only a half a game behind the Vikings, so there's a log jam there coming down the last few games to see who's going to grab this. But again, that's for seeding, and I get it, the bragging rights of being the regular season guy, but I'd much rather be the guy that wins the tournament than the guy that won the regular season. UIC fell to 7-20 with the loss. Trey Lewis dropped in 18 points and 5 boards. Anton Grady doing that double-double thing again. He was a point short of it. 9 points, 13 boards, and he tied a career high with 6 blocked shots. Charlie Lee on senior day, 9 points and 8 dimes. Marlon Mason, also a senior, he had 11 points and 3 blocked shots. And those two had a huge alley-oop at the final point of that game as well for the Vikings. So this week, Vikings off today. They're back at it tomorrow. They have the odd non-conference game in the middle of the conference schedule. Sports Time Ohio is going to pick this one up. It's going to be 7 o'clock tomorrow. We'll talk about it more as the Vikes take on Western Carolina. Buckeyes play, we'll talk some Bucks hoops in a little bit here with Dan Wismar. Talk some Indians as well. Spring training right here, baby. All of that. Let's take a break. Get you some news. When we come back, Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan joins us on the other side of this, and we'll talk about all of that and much more as we roll on heading into hour 2 of the Sports Fix. All of that coming your way next after the news.
Like an S16, smooth and I steam. Michael, jump on the Eiffel Tower, yeah, strike with power. Put pressure on and off the court. It holds like a military fort. With style, a smile, and a lot of finesse. If you win, KY, this is overall dress. He earned the right to ring the tongue and all the hype. Yeah, right there. M-I-K-E, coming out smooth. I wanna be like, yeah, Mike.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into...
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back. It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Today on Save on Taxes, we ask 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
A car seat. Oh, a pair of shoes.
The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. A record-breaking NBA All-Star game in New York totaled 321 points, 3 more than the record set last year, and a combined 48 threes, smashing last year's record of 30. The West beat the East 163-158. Russell Westbrook of the Thunder, the MVP, with 41 points, falling just one short of Wilt Chamberlain's All-Star game record set back in 1962. The Knicks reach a buyout agreement with Amari Stoudemire, who's in the final year of a 5-year deal worth just under $1 million. The Mavericks would appear to be the frontrunners to sign Stoudemire as he becomes a free agent. The Clippers and Suns are also interested. The NBA regular season resumes on Thursday, which is also the day of the trade deadline. A President's Day Big Monday college doubleheader on ESPN starting at 7 Eastern. First in the ACC, second-ranked Virginia hosts Pittsburgh. That'll be followed at 9 Eastern time by number 8 Kansas at number 21 West Virginia in the Big 12.
At Subway, experience the breakthrough taste of new grilled chicken strips. Premium cut all-white meat chicken without artificial preservatives or flavors. They taste better and they are better. Try them on a sweet onion chicken teriyaki or chicken and bacon ranch melt. Subway. Eat fresh.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live as we hit hour 2 here coming up here. Well, a few minutes off, but close roll on. Sports Fix Radio Network. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan is going to join us here and reach that. I got to love it, man. You reach that point where the computer has gone off on a mind of its own. Unfortunately, I am maxing the resources out. I do it all the time. I mean, you guys don't know about it, but moments like this, I just have to laugh and say, you know what? Let's peel the curtain back a little bit and tell them about it. Occasionally, I mean, if you know anything about network resources, I max them out here sometimes with this, especially when, I mean, I've got 2 internet loading. I'm downloading at the same time, coming off of one main computer and then off of some other stuff. But, every once in a while, I just sit there and I stare at a screen that's not moving. And I go, man, I can't do anything. I just got to let the music play. I'm good now. But I was laughing because I came back and Dan Wismar is on the hotline. And as his call came in, that was what overloaded the system. And I just said, well, I'm just going to sit here and let everything calm itself down. Welcome back in, you guys, as we roll on. We're going to Good thing we can kind of go off on the beaten path here today. I know somewhere right now there's a Browns fan mad as hell at us right now that we spent all that time talking about Saturday Night Live and not the Browns, and we should have been talking about the draft or something. But sorry, man. We got a lot of time for that, man, and having some fun. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fans going to join us in on that. We're going to talk some Bucks hoops. We're going to talk some Indians here, all kinds of stuff. Always fun when Dan joins us. You can join us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, The Sports Fix at AOL.com. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Let's go to the phone lines now. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great on a Monday, Jerry.
Good to have you here on a Monday, man. I'm glad. It's because it is a Monday, so it works out well for everything here, man. Because if you were doing great on a Monday and it was Tuesday, we'd be in trouble. So
that's right. Now I'm sorry to hear that my call, blew your system up or something. I don't know what that's about.
Oh, no, it just that's always the point. I always laugh. I can always kind of, now you do this enough, you can tell when you go, okay, I need to close a few extra windows here. I got 800 things running, and your call just literally blocked everything up for a moment. And so I just go, okay, cool. I just have to sit here and wait. Can't actually do anything. So it is what it is, man. I laugh every day. I go, bro, we do things that aren't humanly made to be done with technological resources here. We push them to their limit sometimes, man. But it's all
I guess
good. It's what we got to do.
Your computer's not supposed to have 47 tabs open at one time on your browser. That's
right.
That's right. It's not designed for that.
Not just that. That's just one browser.
I wanted to just make a quick comment about the NBA All-Star game. I just thought that Carmelo shut it down a day early. That was what my take on it was. When he said he was going to shut it down, that meant I'm going to go out there and shoot 5 for 21 or whatever it was, 6 for 20, I think it was.
Yes.
But
2 for 13 from 3. 2 for 13 from 3, brother.
That was unbelievable. Plus, like you say, the game is just increasingly unwatchable.
Now, let me ask you,
when you have a couple of your favorite sons playing, it just is unwatchable. What I couldn't believe, I saw one stretch in the second half, Jerry, where the West it was no fewer than 5. It might have been 6 offensive rebounds in a row. Because you had 5 white East jerseys just standing around doing absolutely nothing, not even trying to get a rebound. And the West was at least working hard on the offensive glass. And I swear it was 5, if not 6, consecutive offensive rebounds on missed shots. And they finally got a layup, a dunk, because the guys were just standing there. It really is ridiculous.
I'm telling you.
Fun to watch your guys play and see LeBron put up 30 or whatever, but, man, it's not an exhibition of basketball. It's something else.
I'm so glad you said that because I did not know if I'm being too hard. I'm telling you, Jerry and I watching, and of course he goes, "That was Kyrie." I said, "Yes, it was, son. Yes, it was." But that one stretch that I watched, where I'm telling you, if Kyrie Irving had moved any slower, he would have been the tortoise in the hare. He was he didn't even try, and I watched it just keep going back and forth with those guys, and I'm dying. I'm going, look, you know what they probably do? Honestly, I believe this. I believe those guys get together the night before the All-Star game, and they put up a little whiteboard, and they figure out all the things that need to happen. Okay, LeBron needs to get around 30 points here so that he can do that. And this guy, like last year, they said, you know what? It's Kyrie's coming out party. He's a free agent this offseason, so I think this would be a good time for Kyrie Irving to get the spotlight. And then what do you know? They let Kyrie shoot it all over the place, and he had his 27-point quarter. And so now Russell Westbrook had a bad first half of the season. He got injured a little bit. and there's some struggles. Hey, let's make everybody feel better. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I think they just draw straws and go, hey, all right, we're going to let you go off tonight. You're going to go off. You got a contract to shine here tonight. It's ridiculous. But I thought maybe I was being the old, they don't play the all-star aspect of it. I'm not saying that Jordan sat there and locked down on Bird on Matt against each other. But there was a hell of a lot more competitiveness even on that level.
Yeah, you're right. And as an old-timer myself, I get more of a kick out of seeing Billy sitting courtside than I do watching anybody else out there.
Yep.
That's just me. But heck, this year, I think they've gotten to the point where the extra stuff, and I'm not talking about the skills challenge, shooting contest and the dunk contest, really are as interesting, if not more interesting than the game, certainly. That they started out being little add-ons, little features or whatever, and they've really sort of taken over in terms of grabbing the attention of the fans. And obviously the dunk contest has gone through some lean years when they can't even get the best dunkers in the league to compete. It kills me how, I think it's overplayed in terms of how taxing it is on the players. I mean, really, it's like the All-Star game, the home run hitting contest. We don't want to do that because we might mess up our swing. What? One swing at some batting practice is going to mess up your swing for the second half. It's ridiculous. Same thing with the dunk contest. You don't want to risk your physical health, by having 4 dunks or something. I realize you have to practice a little bit for it, but I think that's overplayed. This year, however, I think the dunk contest kind of lived up to the billing finally, and Zach LaVine put on an unbelievable show. But that was impressive. Let's put it that way. I've seen a lot of dunk contests that didn't move me at all. But man, that guy, I was following it on Twitter, and people were just knocked out by it. And I got to say, it was impressive.
Well, I watched his highlights of some of his other dunks, and he didn't even break out the best that he can do. That's legit. And again, I've never been a big fan of the all-star stuff, and of the dunk especially, ever since the last probably 10 or 15 years. But I will not lie. Just as I was ready to be done, because the first couple, didn't get what's his name? Antetokounmpo and the other guy, Plumlee. I was like, whatever, man. Like, he had Kyrie help him on the one, and I said, these are the standard fare, what everybody does. Then Oladipo came out, and he sang a little New York, New York, and I said, there's some panache. Okay, that I can dig it. Like, it is showmanship, too. It's not just come out here and slam dunk a basketball. And then he put down a good dunk, and then LaVine came out and did the Space Jam thing. And you know what was the best part about that is I didn't know there were who the two people were that sang that song. They came out, and I looked at Jerry and I said, "Hey, it's the Space Jam guys. I don't know who they are, but he found them, and they're singing the song, man." But anyways, and then he had the Jordan. He had the Space Jam jersey on. I said, "Well, you have to dunk. You can't wear the Michael Jordan Space Jam jersey and then not come out here and dunk the ball." And he did. He did, man. That kid's got some ups for sure, man.
Yeah, he really, he looked like he could have still gone up a little farther when he was dunking. The guy's got some serious ups.
Moving his head out of the way of the rim.
Virtually an unknown player, and even NBA fans. I wasn't all that familiar with the guy. He's only 19 years old, and seriously talented kid with some big time ups.
And that's the thing too, is you would have thought that the dunk contest, to me, looking at the natural way that the game has changed, less skill, less ability to shoot free throws, worse 3-point percentages, less fundamental game, more about just dunking the basketball. You would have thought that the dunk contest would have continued to grow in scope and popularity, and it would have been the skills and the 3-point that continued to go. And now you're starting to see a return back to that. But that never really did happen, and it's because of what you said. It's because the best guys don't do it, And by the way, when you mentioned about the home run derby, you notice it didn't bother them to do the home run derby when everybody was juiced up anywhere near as much as it bothers them to do it now when perhaps the numbers won't be as big. I mean, I'm just saying, when everybody was juiced up, nobody bothered to say, "Oh, I'll do it too. Yeah, I'll go hit 50 home runs in 5 minutes. Here, let me jump in here too." But you are right.
Yeah, well, if you feel like you don't want to show up for All-Star Weekend and you'd rather go home and spend your 3 days on your boat or whatever. That's fine. But don't pretend like taking batting practice for one evening and then seeing how many balls you can hit out is going to screw up your stroke for the second half. I mean, let's just stop kidding each other on that. That always just slays me.
By the way, I don't know where you heard me. I admitted it. I came out and said, hey, I don't care who says whatever. The NBA was number 2 for me last night. Now, I don't know if you are an SNL guy or not. That was my preferred watching last night, but I thought, wow, major miscalculation perhaps on the NBA's part, or maybe they underestimated, because that definitely had to take a bite out of them last night. Like I said, my timeline was full of people that go, I should be watching basketball, but I'm not. I'm watching the Saturday Night Live special.
Yeah, I was watching Twitter and didn't watch the SNL thing, but I am a big fan of early SNL. I mean, Belushi, Aykroyd, and Murph, they're gods to me as far as that's my favorite time. Obviously, the early time when the show was good. Although I got to say, the night before, Saturday night, I think they showed the very first Saturday Night Live ever with George Carlin.
With George Carlin as host, yeah.
And I watched the whole thing, and frankly, it wasn't all that funny. A lot of the bits, a lot of the little skits and sketches were just left me cold. But, they were just getting warmed up. I mean, they had this film by Albert Brooks on there. They had, the musical guest, probably the highlight was, Janice Ian singing 17, and I can't remember who else they had on there music-wise. But the comedy was weak. Even Carlin, I thought, I've seen, be a lot funnier than he was that night. But still, that was kind of neat to watch it. I DVR'd the show last night. I'm going to get back to it, but people were raving about it. Even the stuff like Miley Cyrus and Kanye and people like that were on, covering, older music. I guess Miley covered 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover or whatever, and people thought that was really pretty good.
You know what? I will say that, Dan. Let me say that. I did not care for anything that Kanye West did. His Miley Cyrus, she's not in any way my favorite person, but she wasn't the usual disrespectful Miley Cyrus persona. She sing very well. I said, man, well, she can sing when she wants to. She just chooses to do the other stuff or whatever. But by the way, I don't know. I was just while we're talking about this came up on my thing, and I said, bam, there you go. The numbers from Saturday night from last night, the overnights are in, and man, Saturday Night Live just steamrolled the game. It ended up almost 23.5 million people were watching the Saturday Night Live show, a 5.5 rating for the All-Star game. So nearly a third of the rating of what the Saturday Night Live did, and still up over last year, about 12%. But like I said, I've got to figure that there was a chunk bitten out of perhaps what the All-Star game could have done. Same thing on Twitter. It's nobody ever, because they do the social media measuring now, which is a whole new thing to me, because it doesn't mean anything. I've watched events that do huge social media Twitter numbers during the event and do nothing in real world, because it's just that stuff doesn't count towards business, but whatever. It's a new advertising metric or whatever. On Twitter, there was 1.1 million All-Star Game tweets, 1.3 million Saturday Night Live tweets, one of the rare times socially that a big sporting event gets beaten out by anything that's on television. So it definitely hurt them, and it definitely took a chunk. Nothing has been watched on Saturday Night Live that's not sports as much as what was watched last night since 2004. It had been a decade. It was the final night for Frasier and one of the last ERs, and that was the last time that they had that many people watching NBC.
Interesting. Yeah, going back to the Miley Cyrus thing, and again, a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, maybe I probably couldn't have picked Miley Cyrus out of a lineup because I'm just so out of touch with popular music. But I saw guys last night that who were pretty much predisposed to hate anything Miley Cyrus does, saying, "Hey man, this is pretty good. You got to admit, this is okay. Yeah. I like this. This is all right." So I gotta, I'll be interested to watch it. But when I see guys that I respect that are my age and like me, probably couldn't have picked her out of a lineup a little bit ago. saying, I was all ready to hate this, and I'm not hating it. So that told me it must have been pretty decent.
And you're an old school Saturday Night Live guy, so you'll dig like the Weekend Update with the girls, where they put Jane Curtin with the modern,
and Amy
exactly.
Poehler and the newer people too. Yeah,
very funny stuff. I'll tell you where I thought they missed a funny comedy sight gag was when they brought the land shark in at the end of it. I thought for sure they should have used Left Shark from the Super Bowl, because I thought people would have just popped for that. But anyways, it was just interesting to see the power of that. And clearly, I would figure that the NBA was already locked in stone when that thing started to come together. So there wasn't a whole lot of leeway you could do. You could tell that, like, I'll tell you what, some of the things they did I thought that hurt them, though, is they let people get their hooks in to the Saturday Night Live show. It was a 30-minute spot of player introductions before the game. I mean, when it takes a half an hour to get all the players introduced and all that nonsense done, that's hard to keep an audience. I mean, they're going to flip over and then not, but some of those things were what bothered me more than just the game itself, was how long the like you said, the ancillary stuff is. But I mean, 28 minutes or whatever it was of player introductions. Come on, man. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's crazy. Now the SNL thing was running, and obviously very, very long, and I saw
3.5
later
hours
in the night talking about, I don't want to say SNL 40 is long, but, SNL 50 starts in 25 minutes. So,
they said it on the air. They said it on the air.
People
Steve Martin made a joke like that. He goes, it's SNL 40, and it feels like we've been on here for 40 years, tonight, literally.
Right. Hey, Jared, one thing, if we can switch topics, I wanted to stick around with you, get your thoughts on the strike zone thing. We can talk some baseball. I mean,
yeah,
I'm reading all weekend about, the Major League Baseball considering shrinking the strike zone. And there's some talk about this, and I just thought we'd kick that around if you don't mind. What is it, to me, Jerry? This seems like a solution in search of a problem. The only thing that can really happen with it is to, if you shrink the strike zone, there's going to be more balls and fewer strikes,
more walks, slower games.
Is that really?
You know what I mean?
Is that really what baseball needs? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, my first thing is right off of what you said. What I said is more balls equals more walks equals longer games. And how can you?
Is this the direction we want to be going? Yeah.
Well, at the same time, you're talking about pitch clocks. Manfred is talking about they're going to experiment with the minor leagues and the spring training games with putting almost like a shot clock on the pitchers, and you'll have X amount of seconds in between the play to set and get ready for the next play, and then you have to throw the ball within 15 seconds or whatever it is, and so on one end you're talking about speeding up the game, but exactly what you said, and plus as we see this every once in a while, and they'll make a correction, and then it'll change the game for a decade or two, and then they'll have to course correct back the other way because it goes too far on the one end. So I don't know. How about instead of, here's my thought, is why doesn't everybody figure out the strike zone first? How about we make sure everybody has the same strike zone before we start shrinking it or growing it or changing it again? Because that's the problem to me, is that everybody doesn't have one to begin with. Like, we need to figure it out, whatever it's going to be. But I don't know that I would go shrinking it and make it that. I mean, I get it. You want more offense in the game, apparently, because that would seem to me to be the only benefit of shrinking the strike zone.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I do believe that the best move they've made in recent history is have umpiring, American, and they have no distinction between American and National League umpires. To combine the umpires into one group that rotates and does all the games. So you don't have one strike zone in the National League and a different strike zone in the American. They've done a lot better of making the strike zone consistent that way. And the strike zone, and they now have, of course, tools to measure how consistent the strike zone is and measure exactly how many strikes are thrown and how many balls are thrown and how the strike zone has changed. But you're right. They've after the 68-69 season when Bob Gibson and Louis Tiant were were putting up microscopic 1 point something ERAs. They lowered the mound, and that's the biggest single change they've made in the modern era. And that definitely juiced up the offense because it gave the pitchers less of an advantage. And then, as I understand it, they've made only one official change to the strike zone in recent years. 1996, they basically made an official change that the strike zone at the low end was going to go from the top of the knee to the bottom of the knee. And now the concern is that the strike zone is too low. There are too many low strikes being called, that hitters have a hard time hitting the low strike, and there's much more strikeouts because of that. I'm not sure I'm buying that, Jerry. I think that the reason that there's more strikeouts is the pitchers are better.
Yeah.
And pitchers have much better control than they used to have, and you're facing, 100-mile-an-hour relief pitchers from the sixth inning on to come in and throw nothing but gas. It's already hard enough to hit a Major League Baseball. Now it's, getting near onto impossible to hit a Major League Baseball when they're throwing 100 and they've got a curveball that, drops a foot and a half. So I just think it's better pitchers, bionic arms with Tommy John surgery, relief pitching specialists, and way better control by pitchers. I just think pitching is better, and there's more of a premium put on it by every team. And it was already hard to hit, and it's just getting harder.
Yeah, I hear you there, man. And, I mean, even if the low end of the strike zone, well, then guess what? That means that you got to discipline your hitters better to stop swinging at the low. But if I'm all about if you want to move, but like you said, they've already made the move down. So you don't move it back up. Now what are you going to do, shrink it? I mean, I don't know, man. I just think, it's already, to me, the strike zone is already seems like the size of a shoebox, and right. you're gonna try to shrink it. It just makes no sense. I don't know if I was really ever on top of the actual rule. And of course, the top of the strike zone is where they don't call it anymore. In other words, you don't get the high strike anymore. And see, I like the high strike. I like the high strike better than the low one, man, because the high strike is the one where the guy goes, damn, I should have swung at that. I should have swung at that one. You know what I mean? I like the old school. I know I don't like Roger Clemens, but I like the old fireballer like Clemens that guns up and hits that high third strike. You know what I mean? Or gets the guy to swing. Because that's the other thing. When you don't get the third strike, you can't throw the high third strike and get him to swing and miss because you don't have the chance at it hitting in the zone as well. And I miss that. Reaching out, getting some gas and throwing it past the guy. Officially, the high strike is supposed to be the midpoint between the top of the shoulders and the top of the pants. In other words, roughly the letters. Right. But that's ridiculous. The actual strike zone is more like an inch above the belly button and no higher, barely above the belt. So yeah, you're right. You don't get that call, that's waist level,
it's hard. It's hard to lay off the high fastball if they would call it even halfway between the belly button and the letters. That would help. But again, it would probably help pitchers. And apparently that's not what Major League Baseball wants to do. They don't want to help pitchers. They want to hurt pitchers because they want offense because they think offense sells tickets.
You know what?
And they don't have,
let me jump in there.
They don't have steroids to do that anymore. So now they need to, hurt pitchers some more. Anyway, to me, it seems counterproductive. If you want to help offense, you're going to shrink the strike zone. I don't know. I think pitchers are good enough that good pitching is the problem with hitting, not the strike zone. Anyway, I just wanted to kick it around with you.
No, I agree with you because I was going to mention a couple of those things anyway, whether it was today or in our next couple of conversations. I've got my whole list of, my spring training stuff and all of that. But Rob Manfred, one of the things I talked about a week or two ago was I'd love to start talking to some of you guys about some of these changes that he's talking about, because there's one of them with the strike zone, the pitch clocks that I brought up there. And then another one, man, like, let the game correct itself. It will happen. It always happens. The shift and even discussion of whether we should tweak whether teams are allowed to use the shift or whether they should be not allowed to use it or what is this a fair yes, it's a strategy. And if you guess what? You could beat the shift 99 times out of 100 if you just bunt it the other way or just hit it. Teach your guys to hit the ball exactly where they want it to go. About the shift again. But instead, let's just ban it. Let's just say we shouldn't be allowed to use it. To me, that's the equivalent of the NFL saying, you know what, teams, we've decided that third down is really important. No more zone blitzing on third down. All your blitzers have to declare themselves. No, that's a part of the strategy of the game is part of, you know what I mean? And messing with the shift, to me, is messing with the actual fabric of the way we're playing the game. That's a strategical decision that teams choose to use, and they can be easily beaten. It's like in basketball when a team traps. I call twice a week. I'm calling the games, and I sound like a broken record. I go, well, every time they break out the trap, you know that you can find the open man. It's a guarantee. If they're double teaming somebody, then somebody's open. If you're smart enough to find the open man, they're going to quit trapping you real quick. But if you don't, then they're going to eat you alive with the trap. Same thing with the shift. If you're going to hit into it every time, then they're going to keep doing it. If you learn to hit to the other side, they'll never shift on you again.
Yeah, you're right. It amazes me, in fact, that more teams don't use the shift, especially against certain hitters. I mean, after watching Michael Brantley baseball pitching last year, he hit so many balls direct. That's his stroke. He hits the ball right back up the middle. If I'm playing the Cleveland Indians, Michael Brantley's at bat, I've got a guy standing right behind second base. I don't care. Make him adjust instead of, you trying to, stop him when you know that a high percentage of his hits are going right over second base. I couldn't believe that more teams didn't do that. But the whole shifting's interesting, going back to the inventor of it, which is really Lou Boudreau, trying to beat Ted Williams, trying to do something to figure out how to stop Ted Williams. In fact, it was called the Williams shift for the longest time, or the Boudreau shift, either way. But the funny thing about it was that, Boudreau would admit that he didn't think it ever worked against Ted Williams. He said it was more a ploy to try to get in Williams' head, but he admits that he didn't think Ted Williams was ever fazed by it one way or the other. He said there was never any evidence to show that, it actually worked. But he just figured, hey, man, we can't pitch to the guy. We better change the way we put our fielders in the field against him because nothing else is working. So he was sitting around trying to figure it out. And the story that he would tell is, sitting around at a restaurant with the coaches after a game and getting out the paper napkin and starting to draw up the diamonds and say, what are we going to do to stop this guy? And that's how it originated. But let's move some people around because, obviously our pitchers haven't figured out a way to get him out. So, but it is interesting that he admitted that, no evidence it ever worked at all or that Williams was even affected by it one way or the other. But that's where it all started.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if I think it's good strategy to put all of my players in the outfield for this at bat, well, I'm an idiot, but it's my right to be an idiot and get fired and cost my team games. Like, I don't get it's that over legislation. It's, Jonathan Knight and I, we were talking a couple weeks ago about the NBA. And I do sometimes I get into the argument and I can understand it. I don't like seeing sub 500 teams go to the playoffs in any sport. You know what I mean? And I hate to see the way the balance has shifted currently in basketball. I can totally dig people that say, hey, we should let the 1 through 16 be ranked. It doesn't matter if you're in the East or if you're in the West. And I get that. But Jonathan Knight, we were talking about it, and he kept coming back to the point that it's reactionary. And all of these sports sometimes deal with trends that all come back to the media, and they all work their way back, but people get reactionary. Same thing, and we were talking about using basketball as an example. You go back 2 decades, though, the East was dominant, and there was only a handful of decent West teams, and the East was where hard basketball was played, and the West was where soft basketball was played. And then that it didn't take any artificial legislation. It just slowly course corrected back the other way, and it'll eventually work its way back. Now, I wouldn't be against a 500 guarantee to make the playoffs, whereas if the bottom 2 teams in your conference were sub 500, then they're getting replaced by 2 teams from the other side. But then you got Western Conference teams in the Eastern Conference bracket, and then you can't figure out a way to make it make sense that way either. But again, that's over legislation for something that will probably correct itself.
Yeah, you're right. It's cyclical. If you have teams that are sub 500, and then they're going to be high in the lottery, they're going to be getting higher picks, and they're going to improve theoretically, and it will change. I remember when, like you say, the East was considered the power conference and the West was considered the run and gun fast break conference. You know, the East was considered, well, the half court game with the great Celtics teams and people like that emphasized the half court offense, and the West was the freewheeling, running, fast breaking, open court kind of concept. And it obviously it isn't that way anymore. There's no distinction that way, but everybody runs or tries to. But you're right. It is cyclical, and it'll come back around, and it may take a while. But
I remember,
even with the Atlantas and the Clevelands and the teams in the East right now, Atlanta just blitzing through these Western teams. They're kicking the Western teams' butt. So I'm not so sure that obviously you look at overall records, and it compounds itself because the West has better records, even though they're playing more Western teams than Eastern teams. And it really is pretty skewed right now in favor of the West. But like you say, that it'll come back around because it always does.
Right. The other thing, by the way, while we're just talking about monkeying with the game, I mentioned it twice. We didn't actually talk about it. The pitch clock idea. Where are you at on that one, man? Obviously, we're going to see some experimenting with it here coming up with minor league ball and all of that. But, where are you at with that? The idea of putting a clock, whether it's 15 or 10 or however many seconds on the pitcher, and that's how long you've got to get yourself ready for the next pitch, or else it's a ball or whatever.
I hate it. I hate the idea
I don't like
of
it at all.
Because you're at the ballpark, and the pace of baseball is a big part of its appeal to me. And I don't necessarily claim to be a purist or whatever, but I guess certainly in this respect I am. There's no time limit on the baseball game, and if some pitchers work fast, Corey Kluber, like that, they're notable for getting the ball and being ready to go, and they're standing there tapping their toe rocks. And there are other guys who are just the opposite of that. They're fooling around, monkeying around on the mound, touching every part of their body before they go to the stretch or whatever. That's part of the game. I admire hitters who don't step out of the box, take 3 practice swings, and fix their batting gloves after every single pitch. The delay part of the game isn't all on pitching, because half the time you got a pitcher standing there, toe on the rubber, waiting for Mike Hargrove to get his butt in gear. So it's not all on pitching, and I just think the idea of putting a clock on pitchers, might as well put a 3-hour time limit on the baseball game, and hey, if it's the middle of the 6th inning and we're done, hey, time's up. It's ridiculous.
No,
I really dislike the idea.
I agree. You can say what you want, but if I'll tell you what, let the first important game, clutch situation, some pitcher's there in the 9th inning getting himself together. Maybe he's got to shake off a couple of calls. Maybe how many times has the pressure built as Hammy's giving you the play-by-play on the radio? And he shakes off the call, shakes it off again. Got to make sure they get the right call on this one. Okay, now they're set. It appears they're on the same page, and they walk you all the way up until the pitch. Could you imagine if there's a clock and they've got 15 seconds to make that? I'm with you, man. Like, forget that. I don't have any interest in that idea of the pitch clock at all. Now, if you want to give umpires, and I think they already have the whole delay of game, they can come in and speed things up anyway. You want to give them the right to say, hey, I just feel that this is delay of game. You're intentionally taking too long. You want to be able to warn guys for delay of game or something, which I don't know if they can or not, but whatever. Okay, you can maybe put something in there for the officials, but you can't do that. You can't. I have no interest in that whatsoever. It seems like
and besides, it's such a part of the game, Gary. When let's say the pitcher has gone through his signs. He's shaken off 4 signs. He's got a runner on first.
I love that.
Yes. He just doesn't like the way it feels right now.
Right.
And he's going to step. Okay. After all that time, he steps off the rubber. He wants to walk to the back of the pitcher's mound and clean the dirt out of his spikes. and pick up the rosin bag and roll it around in his hand and throw it back down and then climb back up on the mound and start the whole thing all over again. Well, damn it, he's got the right to do that.
I agree.
If he doesn't like the call, he doesn't like the pitch he's been called, he doesn't like the way the runner on first base is running, taking a big lead and faking out that he's going, and hey, step off.
That's part of it
around,
too. What you just said.
Take your time. Yeah. It's part of the game, and it would be a crime if they ever messed with that.
You got the guys on the bases, and think about how much easier it'll be for runners to run on pitchers if they literally know the exact second that he's going to deliver the ball. Like, you've now given an intrinsic advantage to the base runners because they now have a starting clock. They're not going to sit there and have to time it and make sure that they're not going to get set up with a good move by the pitcher. They see it 3, 2, 1. He's got to pitch the ball. And then tell me how and I'm not just talking about an Indians player, say the Indians are in a crucial game, but how will baseball feel if you've got some crucial game and afterwards the pitcher who just lost is talking to the media? Well, why did you call blah, blah, blah pitch? Well, I really wasn't feeling good about it. Like you said, my gut I didn't like the call, but the clock was running down and I literally had to make a pitch. So I went with that one. No way, man.
And how many times, Jerry, have you watched a baseball game or been at a baseball game, at the Indians game or anywhere else, and at the end of the game you say to yourself, man, that game was just really too long?
It's baseball.
That never happens to me. I don't know. It might happen to some people, but it never happens to me.
It's baseball. It's intrinsically long. You already know that coming in. To me. Now, if you can cut a baseball game from 3 hours to an hour and a half, hey, let me know how you can make that happen. I'm just saying that's a big chunk of time. But, I mean, you're talking about, cutting 5 minutes, 10 minutes off of my 3-hour game? That's not worth messing with the game for that. You're not getting enough of a benefit.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll say to yourself after the game's over, wow, that game went 3 hours and 45 minutes. That was a really long game. But it's not because you're thinking it was too long. You're just taking note of the fact that it took longer to play that game than the one they played yesterday, or the average game. And of course, the length of the average game is getting a bit longer, Anderson. I don't know what those numbers are in the last few years, but it used to be the average game was under 3 hours. Now it's probably 3 1/4, something like that. I think. In fact, it's rare. It's rare to have a game that's under 3 hours anymore. But I just don't think it's a great concern that Major League Baseball should be, thinking they have to tinker with.
See, I think it's a concern to them because one of the things, they're looking at how to compete with these other sports, and that is, especially for non-baseball fans, the length of the game is the one thing that people always throw at the slow pace, which I say it's complete. I mean, it's totally different. It's like, a golf fan then trying to wonder why they don't move slower and why everything's so fast. Well, because it's a completely different game than this one. Everything is of its own merits, but just in general, the ADD society, as I always like to call it, we like to get everything, fit as many things in as we can. It would be so much better for the non-baseball fan. And that's the best part, is a lot of times I feel like these changes are being discussed to accommodate the baseball fan because they want to give you a nice tidy time in and out. Hey, it's going to be 2 hours. You're going to be in at 1. You're going to be out at 3. Lord forbid you go in and maybe, like you said, maybe it's a long one. Maybe we're here for 4 hours and it's cold and we're like, wow, that was a long one. And then some nights we're like, wow, man, what was that? 2.5 hours? Man, that game blew by quickly. But that's one of the things about baseball is it's a non-timed sport. That's okay because that's the rule of its sport. If you want a time, cool. Just go watch one of the sports that have clocks. Like it just feels like you're trying to change the game for the people that don't watch the game. And that is a tricky slope because, you want to appeal to the bigger audience, but at the same time, your actual audience.
Yeah, that's true, and I think you're so right about that. You're trying to broaden the appeal of the game for people, and let's say you're successful with these off the average time of a Major League Baseball game. Do you think that's going to drag in that? It's 3:05 instead of 3:15. Well, I'm going to start going to baseball. I'm going to
start going now. Exactly.
I don't happen, or I'm going to start watching on TV. No, because the people that hate baseball are making up excuses for why they hate it. It's too slow. It's this, it's that. Well, if you don't like baseball, fine, just say you don't like baseball. But don't Major League Baseball shouldn't be fooled into thinking that if they shorten the game by 5 minutes on average, that they're going to drag in a huge new audience, because it's just not going to happen.
It's like, here, use Cleveland as an example.
Speaking of that, I was just going to say, speaking of changes, what do you think about the new proposed 6:10 start time for?
Mike Brandenberry and I talked about it last week, and he said, hey, I'm going to pretend that my conversation with Curtis Danberg gave him the idea, but I love it for multiple reasons. Number one, maybe you just get a little captive audience. Some people that decide they'd rather not sit through that incredible rush hour traffic, maybe they'll go check out an Indians game. But more importantly, you get it over sooner for people that have kids, that have work the next day, all of that. B, it gets cold quick when you get past Cleveland in April, and that extra hour could make a big difference to the weather as well. And in those early, I'm with it, and I honestly think every hour and be good throughout the summer, all of them, because I really like that 6:10 start, man. It gets people back. Great point. He lives 30 minutes away, so patting them back through, getting them home. That's a whole adventure there. And the quicker you can be, when you're talking about March and April, the months where there's still a lot of school and a lot of different schools open up, weather opens up a bit. But I love it. How about you?
Yeah, there's certainly some upsides to it, and you mentioned the big ones. Getting kids home earlier, if you're taking kids to the game, and it's colder later, and you hopefully beat a little bit of the weather life. And it's not quite so freezing. Now, it doesn't matter if it's snowing in April, as it often is here, but you're not going to help a lot there. I think there might be some downsides here, and just thinking of a couple of them. Let's say you work downtown, or you work in Beechwood or whatever, and you live in Strongsville, and you got to go home and pick up your kid to take him to the game after work. You're not going to have time to do that.
True.
That's one thing. It's if you have to get somewhere from work and then get to the ballpark instead of going directly from downtown work to the ballpark, then it's a disadvantage. You don't really have time to maybe make both legs of that trip and still make it for the first pitch. So I can see how that might, some people that the work situation isn't downtown, and maybe you do need to stop home, and before you could stop home, grab a bite to eat, grab the kids, drive to the park, and make it. Now you can't do that. But I think what they're trying to do is probably get that downtown crowd to stay downtown.
Yeah.
And not feel if I get off work at 5, I'm gonna go home, and if I do that, I'm not going to drive all the way back down in downtown to see the baseball game. So my wife mentioned it to me. We talking about it, and she said maybe they want to sell more food at the ballpark because they're not giving people a chance to go get dinner before they go to the game. They're going to have to get dinner at the game. It's something I didn't really think about, but maybe that's part of the calculation also, that they'll sell more food at the ballpark that people won't have time to eat before they go.
Yeah, that's a good idea, too, because we'll just grab it down at the park. Now, my thoughts, because you got a good point there, my thought on that as far as going, I think that the Indians are slow to make any changes. So when they do, I know that they research a lot with their fan. They're the kings of the surveys and all of that stuff. And I know that they do put a lot of research into when they make these decisions. So I'm thinking that based on, and I'm looking at the group of 9,000 or so fans that are going to actually be down there during those weeknight games. You know what I mean? I'm talking about and I think that maybe is what they were taking into consideration more with. But I hear you. I just like it mostly from the weather aspect there. But I hear you on the 7th. That is a difference in the time if you have to go pick people up. I don't know. I like it. I like it mainly because it shows me some type of trying to, like I said, not beating your head in the wall, wondering why people don't show up, actively trying different things until you finally go, hey, you know what? This didn't work. Maybe they'll, at the end of the year, they go, hey, 6:10 didn't really make a difference, but this did. Or maybe they find out 6:10 did. Maybe at the end of the year, you and I are going, bro, Curtis Danberg said those 6:10 games were up 10% from last year. And then maybe they find that. And the numbers are going to be relative, too. Think about that. I mean, even if it improved 10%, you're probably only talking about 700, 800, 900 April and May and on Wednesday night, So you're still probably, even if you added 10%, you're adding less than 1,000 people because you're not starting from by the way, how the early season attendance goes. I wanted to bounce back. You jumped on that, but what you were saying right before that, when we were talking about the speed of the game and stuff, and you hit it. You said about people who just make excuses for reasons that they don't want to watch, and they'll say the game's this, the game's too slow, the game's that. I look at Cleveland as an example. We look at how the crowds were and then how they are now. And people go, well, how do we get back to there? It's never going to be the same, blah, blah, blah. And as they throw out those excuses, I think that that's a good window just to look at it in here locally is Cleveland, because at last I checked, the game took the same amount of time in the 90s as it did now, right? Game takes the same amount of time. Nothing's really changed, well, except for the steroids. Nothing's really changed about the game from when they were selling out 455 games in a row. So a lot of these people that are trying to be scientists about the attendance problems and here's what's wrong, well, that's not apples to oranges. That's actually apples to apples, and it's a bad comparison because the game was equally as slow when they were selling the building out. So no, speed of the game is not why people stopped going to the game. And that's what the problem is in Cleveland. It's not that they can't find baseball fans. It's where did the baseball fans go when they stopped coming to the stadium? That's what the Indians need to figure out. And speed of the game is not the biggest problem that baseball has. And if they convince themselves that those little things are the problem, they're going to continue to get overlapped because they're going to miss out on the big picture.
Right, and you have to also look at this is not a baseball-wide problem, this attendance problem. This attendance problem is a Cleveland problem and a Tampa problem and a couple of other cities where they can't draw flies to their games even though they have competitive, teams. Yes, the mid-'90s was the perfect storm in terms of an exciting young team that won 100 ball games in 1994, and they had the novelty of the new ballpark coming up, and everything came together at the right time. So there are lots of factors there that we don't have today, that novelty of the new ballpark, for example. But, other teams are drawn just fine. And you look around baseball and you see teams averaging 25, 35, 40,000 fans per game. So this is not a problem that's, endemic to baseball overall. It's a local issue here. And part of it is that, bad baseball for 30 years, alienated a couple different generations of potential fans into non-fans. And we had a brief little flirtation with excitement in the mid-'90s, a couple of World Series and the 455 straight sellouts, and then it went back to being the sleeping giant that people always claimed it was before. Obviously, I think winning big would and will solve that problem. Other factors like maybe an improving economy wouldn't hurt either. But this is not something that you look at big picture across baseball, because in a lot of cities there is no attendance problem.
You know what though? As you were saying that, I was actually doing some research, and I agree and I disagree at the same time. There are some cities where baseball is thriving, but actually last year, baseball was year to year from the year before about 250,000 people down, which isn't a huge number. You got to realize that based on baseball, that's an average of 100 people per game per team. So, I mean, we're not talking about a huge, but it was down year over year. But when I look at some of the numbers, you can see the stark differences between the markets. And you can see, like you said, because going down through the list, you look at, and I'll start with Cleveland just so people know, from 13 to 14, the Indians were down 135,000 fans from the year before. It was down an average of 1,700 fans per game from the year before, which is nuts because that's coming off of the playoff season, and they were down 1,700 fans a game the next season. But if you roll down through the list, there's a lot of cities in that same boat. Now, you've got a couple of big cities that rise the tide back up, like Seattle had a big year last year. They were up 300,000 from the year before. That was the biggest single-season jump up throughout all of baseball. But there's a ton. Matter of fact, I'll do the math here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams. Exactly half of baseball last year were down 5 figures or more from the year before in attendance, and there were some ones that were way bigger than Cleveland, actually. Minnesota was down 250,000 people from the year before. Texas was down almost 500,000 people from the year before. Texas was down over 5,000 fans per game. It was the single largest drop per game from one season to the other for the Rangers, down over 5,000 fans per game. Couple of
and you can understand why.
Because they fell apart. They fell apart. Absolutely.
Back-to-back
Philadelphia
World Series to being a loser.
Philly was the worst. Philly was down
the enthusiasm factor.
Yeah, Philly was down almost 7,500 fans a game. They were down 600,000 fans, but they were down from a peak of 3 million the year before, and then they dropped down to 2.4. Meanwhile,
I was just going to make the point that you can absorb 500,000 if
exactly
3 million people instead of 1.2 million or whatever the Indians.
But this is a problem. What we're talking about that baseball has to figure out in these various markets, because yes, for every Seattle that's up 302,000, you go right back the other way to a Atlanta down 200,000, and so on and so forth. Cleveland down on a winning season, because that too is where the questions come in. It's one thing when teams struggle, when they don't put a product on the field, but when you have, fair or not, back-to-back winning seasons and the second one draws less than the first, those are tricky questions to answer. I mean, kudos to the Indians for trying to figure it out, because that is where you scratch your head and go, okay, now the attendance is not directly related to what we're doing on the field. So that's a whole different set of questions to deal with.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to go into my normal song and dance about, where are the ticket sales people? I haven't seen them, but I won't do that because that gets old after a while and no one wants to hear it. But yeah, you're right. They're trying a couple things with start times. But bottom line, this is the season when tickets need to be sold, and I don't know. I don't see it happening.
I mean, Dan, I know you realize it. I don't know if people realize when we always talk about close to the bottom in payroll and these different things in attendance. Now, I'm not talking about close to the bottom. The Indians finished last for last season. Dead last. Absolute 30th out of 30 teams listed here. 1,437 people crossed through those gates last year. The absolute lowest number in all of Major League Baseball, man. And off of a playoff season, and they come back with that much of a difference from the year before. And then you go to the other half and you look at the top, and you got the teams, and that's what I mean. The top teams float up the bottom ones. The Dodgers got 4 million people coming through the gates.
Right, yeah, and the thing that bothers me, Barry, it's accountability. Did you see? Certain. I don't even know who the guy is who works for the Cleveland Indians, who's in charge of ticket sales, but I think he ought to lose his job.
Oh yeah.
I think somebody needs to be fired, and somebody else needs to be hired to give them a shot after years in a row of terrible attendance with a winning team, in the organization. And maybe it's there and I don't see it. Maybe people are being held accountable for crap attendance. But there has to be more proactivity on the part of the club.
Right.
I just don't see the accountability. It bothers me.
The TV ratings. I understand that they got one of the highest TV ratings, the Indians, in baseball all the time. I'd rather watch not just Indians, just in general. I prefer the comforts of to getting out there and dealing with especially weather and traffic and all of that stuff. Weren't in HD, but last I remember in the 90s, I was still watching Indians games. Some of them even had high definition at that point in time, and there was still a lot of people. There was just a large percentage of them also going hot there.
Yeah, and that's me. That's me. I'm watching almost, I would say out of 162 baseball games a year, I'm watching 130 of them on television, or 10 or 12 if I'm going somewhere on the road. I'm either listening to them on the radio or I'm keeping track of them on my cell phone, maybe on the MLB at bat. And about 15 times a year, I'm sitting in my seat at the ballpark. So it's not like I'm choosing to do one or the other. Nobody goes to every single game. But I go to about anywhere between 12 and 16 games a year, sometimes a few more than that, sometimes a couple less. But, that's me. And the other another 140 or whatever. I'm keeping track of either on TV or radio. It's not like you're choosing to do one or the other.
And here's the thing, and this is, I mean, these little things that just point out things to me, little statements that you can make. We know that the Houston Astros are 2 years removed from being the worst team in the history of baseball. Worst team ever. By the way, both of the last 2 seasons, they've outdrawn the Cleveland Indians, and they went from the worst season in baseball history 2 years ago. They improved their attendance by 100,000 fans the next season. The same gap where the Indians fans dropped by almost the same percentage. And I'm like, wait a minute. The Indians went to the playoffs and they lost 1,700 fans a game. Houston lost 100-plus games. Worst team in baseball history. The next season, 1,300 more fans per game decided to go to Astros games. Tell me how anybody, you, me, anybody, makes sense out of that.
Yeah, I certainly can't. It just, like I said, I got nothing. I got nothing for that.
What do you do?
I would like to see some accountability on the part of the club that isn't just passively accepting what they get and then cheering and when they get a 4,000 or 5,000 person walk up on a nice summer night with the Detroit Tigers in town and congratulating themselves for that. And the whole attendance thing, by May of every year, everybody's good and sick and tired of hearing it. No one wants to see blog posts about it, tweets about it, people whining about it. But it's ridiculous that a team that wins 85 to 90 ball games a year and is competitive and fun to watch is drawing 1 million people. Yeah. And yet there are people around this town that say, well, Cleveland has the greatest fans in baseball. Well, no, they don't. It's bizarre. It's ridiculous to say that. It almost ticks me off more to hear people say, "Oh, the greatest fans in the country right here in Cleveland." No, they're not. Sorry.
That's being honest. I hear you, bro. I absolutely hear you on that one. And like I said, it's a shame. I can totally get on the Dolans as much as anybody else from time to time. But then when I look at that and I go, wait a minute, you mean the Astros kicked their fans? In the nether region that badly? That bad? Not only that, but you and I talked about it. The headlines during the offseason were Astros worst team on field, most profitable team off field in history of baseball. Made more money that year than ever. People get on the Dolans if they make 50 cents that they didn't put back into the team. Could you imagine if they just cashed it in for a whole season, had their highest percentage of revenue ever, and then sold that back to the fans? Could you imagine the reaction here in Cleveland?
Well, yeah, and imagine how much more profitable they'd be if they didn't have a couple of dead weight contracts that they're lugging around.
It's just
I'm
amazing.
sure they would love to see that, but and that's the way teams make money, by shaving payroll, cutting payroll down to bare minimums, like the Pirates have done, and like the Astros have done, and like the A's have done from time to time. Sure, you can make money, but is it a good long-term proposition? Not so much.
How in the world do you ever tell that owner, by the way, that he's not a good owner when he looks at you and goes, last I checked, nobody in my line of work ever made as much money as our team did last year. So you go ahead and tell me that I'm not doing a good job. But my bank account says that you're completely wrong, even if I had to lose 110 games or whatever it was along the way, man. Just it is what it is. And we'll see as this season gets going. But I'm with you, man. I'm not highly optimistic on a big turnaround at all, especially because any optimism I did have is kind of washed off by the fact that the Cavs seem to have gotten their stuff together, because there was a possibility that maybe if they were still mucking around, even though you knew playoff time was coming, maybe that would put a little focus back on the Tribe. But if the Cavs are hot, that'll just be one more drop pulled out of the bucket, strung out the fan dollar, whatever excuses you want to make. I'm going to be interested to see how talking about it, tired of talking about it by May, but it is something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be, I don't know. I can't even offer you a way. I can offer you tiny ways to pump up the attendance a little bit, but nothing that they haven't thought of themselves. I don't know how you fix a problem that doesn't appear. I don't know.
I don't know. I am of the belief that there's enough business in this town, and I'm talking about small businesses, small to medium, and also big businesses, that would buy season tickets if they had somebody banging down their door explaining to them how reasonable season tickets are. All they need to do is add 5,000 season ticket holders to the base, go from 10 to 15,000. Then if you get a nice walk-up crowd and some good individual ticket sales, season goes along, you can get your average up where it ought to be, which is at least around 20,000 people a game. I just think if there was a committed campaign, corporate campaign, to hit up every single business, small, medium, and large, in the 5-6 county area, that you could easily, I don't know about easily, but you could sell 5,000 additional season tickets and add to that base. And that's really all you really need to do. I just don't see a campaign like that being conducted with sales reps and phone calls and web presence and social media and TV advertising and all manner of push to get that extra 5 to 6 to 7 or however many you can get added to that season ticket base. I just don't see it being undertaken.
No, and what's scary too is you talk about just using 20,000 as a small base number to get to. For the Indians to get there this season, they would have to add about $250,000 over the course of the season to their attendance just to get there, to get that number up there. And for comparable purposes, last year only 2 teams in baseball added more than that, or added that amount of people to their fan base in one season, and that was Seattle and Milwaukee. And I do believe you're dealing with new stadiums there, aren't you? Or at least definitely.
Well, yeah, you are.
Milwaukee,
and
yeah.
maybe, Jerry, you don't even do that over the course of one season. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But we've been plugging along at this 9 to 10 base season ticket package group, and maybe it takes you 2 or 3 seasons with a concerted advertising program and to do that, to get there. And instead of sitting here lamenting the fact that you've only got 9,000 season ticket holders, well, let's do something about it. Maybe it'll take more than a year.
Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, J-Rocc talking Indians fans' favorite topic. We didn't even mean to go there, but we ended up talking a little bit of attendance here, and hopefully, it just kind of segued. We're talking about the speed of the game and then excuses people make, and next thing you know, we're like, hey, where's the people at? But hey, look, man, we'll see. I mean, one of the biggest things too is say what you want, and this is part of it. It's star power too. Like, I mean. Obviously, that the big ticket in town is next door to Progressive Field. I still want to call it Jacobs Field all the time, but I've been trying to correct myself on that. But when looking back at the '90s too, that's the other thing. It wasn't just the perfect storm. You had a star-powered team. Like, that's the other thing. Don't give me that perfect storm. Give me that '90s team today. They're selling out a whole bunch of games at the down there at the corner.
Oh,
of
I agree. You're winning 100 ball games.
You know what I mean?
You're winning 100 games. You're going to be putting people in the park, new or not, new or 20 years old.
Yeah, they're coming to see Albert Bell, and they're coming to see Manny Ramirez. I don't care how good the HD TVs are. And that's not a slight to the guys now. What I mean is star power also is a thing. We can love these guys all we want, but right now there's not a lot of star power behind a guy like Corey Kluber or Michael Brantley. Mike Brandenberry brings this up a lot, and it's a great question. If you weren't an Indians fan, if you're coming from out of town, or what player on the Indians do you go, I got to go see him because he's the big name, the big star. I love watching, whatever. How many guys do the Indians have that the outside of Cleveland fan base goes, wow, so-and-so? But I mean, you don't have that right now. They don't have.
You're right. You're right. There is nobody like that right now on this roster.
Kluber
and they were hoping, of course, that a guy like Swisher, would be the face and would sell tickets and would be the face of the franchise, and that could have gone better.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, I was like waiting for you to finish the sentence because you said, "Well, that could have went better," and then just stopped, and I'm like, Well, yeah, I think it could have went better, man. It can still go better if they want. But, yeah, I'm with you, man. We'll see. Hey, look, spring training's starting, and I'm with it. We'll see what happens with the attendance, but I am fired up. And I want to ask you something. I want to see, since you're my Wismar trivia, all of that we do, I want to see if you want to join in here and be a part of this. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, but I'm breaking out this year. We've got a good grand prize. We've got a Gaylord Perry, 1972 Indians, Cooperstown days, 10 questions, leading it up until the first spring training game on March 3rd when we announced the winner. And I wanted to tie some of you guys. I could just make up a question and let you ask it, but I was thinking Wednesday, Monday, and Wednesday of next week, if on those 3 days, if you wanted to be the person that provides the trivia question for us to ask, and then we'll save it for your segment on those shows and stuff. So if you're willing to undertake digging up a couple of good trivia questions, I would love to involve you in this as well.
Sounds like fun. I'll be happy to do that. You want to start next Monday? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, we're going to start tomorrow, but I figure, I'll have Mike Brandenberry provide the question this week and next week when he's on with us. We'll have you on 3 days. I'll get the other 5 questions, and then boom. But I just figure that way you may find something totally different than where I'm looking and have some great question. As Dan, I'm just going to ask him on the air. But that way, on the days that you're on with us, we'll use your segment to do our question of the day. And it's real easy. 10 questions, 10 days, answer them. Whoever answers the most right wins. The trick is you have to listen to the show. We're not going to repost them anywhere. You have to listen here to get it. But it's pretty simple. And, whoever gets the most right wins. And if there's a tie, then we'll just draw it out of a hat. But that'd be pretty cool. Last year, we went all Cleveland sports. This year, we're going to try to go Indians trivia specifically for this one. And I just thought, man, Dan Wismar is my trivia guru, so I'd see if you want to jump in on it.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you'd like me to be ready with one on Wednesday this week, if you're starting tomorrow, that I can make that happen.
You are the man. So on Wednesday, the trivia question will be coming from Dan Wismar here. Tomorrow, of course, will be the first one, and it'll be a lot of fun. Should be cool. And last year, somebody got the old red, Indians red. Love that Indians red. The Eckersley jersey I think it was from 75 last year. So this one here, Gaylord Perry from 1972. It's the white home jersey with the Indians across the front. Pretty cool prize, man. And buddy,
sounds good.
Partner up with us, and we'll do it. I'm ready. I'm fired up. They're fired up here as we start to wrap this up. They're reporting. I've already been there. It's now time to start doing the thing and getting ready. And very good to see here that throwing some of the pitchers. Gavin Floyd's been down there. Danny Salazar, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. He needed to get impossible anyway. And scary thing that coming into this here with the starting to see a lot, but I'm starting to see a lot of good projections for the Indians here nationally, and part of me says, all right, good thing. Never a good thing when they start talking about Indian summer. It seems it doesn't always work out that way for us, but the Indians are starting.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Go ahead.
You're right, though, that a lot of the Nats team than the local ones are.
They are.
It is good to see that, and good to see at least that people recognize that if they can get a couple of bounce-back years from some guys and a little bit of continued improvement from the young rotation, that they could be right in the thick of it. And, of course, people are looking at, help for the Indians by subtraction on some of the other teams, notably the Royals and the Tigers. And so that's all well and good, and may it happen. And the other thing is, I read the other day that the Indians last year were, 11-17 out of the game. Through April and into the very first part of May. After that, they played 14 games over 500 the rest of the season. If they can even, get through that first 30 games, at 500, that's a big plus on your record at the end of the year. And it's so crucial getting off to a fast start in terms of the attendance problems that we talked about. If you can generate a little buzz in April, going to help you all the rest of the way.
Absolutely. So funny. You remember talking, we go back to the 90s. I remember at different times, different coaches throughout the years where that would be the trouble. Like, wasn't that Hargrove? His team started slow some years, and then that would be the focus coming out of spring training would be to start faster. And Same thing here. That would be such a big difference because, as you said, if you can just flip that around even a half a dozen games, look at the difference. That and how you play defense coming right out the gate in that first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. It's a long journey, but we can look and see that the hole that the Indians dug themselves in the first 6 weeks of that season, 8 weeks, or stretching it out even a little more, was too much for them to undo. And if, as you said, just making that little change early, playing just a little bit tighter earlier on, would be a big step towards that. But yeah, everywhere. It's not even the predictions that scare me. It's when I saw, was it ESPN or Major League Baseball, with the article 2 weeks ago about the secretly great Cleveland Indians starting rotation. I'm telling you, I had visions of Carter and Snyder on the cover of Sports Illustrated all over again. I said, oh man, this is all we need now, because I was feeling good about the pitching, but now if somebody else is pointing it out, now we got something to worry about. But seriously, you're right. A lot of the national people noticing, and it should be interesting. But I think perhaps the outlook for the Indians, as you put it, better outside of Cleveland than it is here in town.
Yeah, and we've got a cynical kind of fan base, and they're, it's built on lots and lots of years. It's built on not winning a World Series for 60 years or so. So it's hard to fault the fan base for being cynical, and but nothing's going to solve that until you go deep in the playoffs and get back to the World Series and get the buzz back in town. So
that's it.
Here's hoping that happens. Here's hoping that happens before I pass away. So I'd like to see it happen. At least I was a year and a half old in '54 when they were at the series, and I wasn't quite born yet when they won it in '48. But and obviously we all lived through a couple of World Series in the '90s that gave us a taste of what that's all about. So it'd be nice to see him get back there, and the team with the best starting pitching typically is the team that gets to the World Series. So maybe that's in the cards for us this year, and we'll beat all those jinxes, all those people that are predicting good things for us.
I remember my dad telling me, you brought up 48 and 54. My dad was 11 in 48, 10, 11, and he was 16, 17 in 54. And I remember him telling me about both of those times and being able to go down to the park and all of that and watching the parade the one year. And I mean, just, you hear that stuff and then you're a kid, your dad's telling you stories about yesteryear and you're like, yeah, whatever. And then now you sit here and you're going, oh boy, I appreciate those stories a whole lot more, man, being down there and seeing the parade. And I remember my dad telling me he had never seen as many people in one place as he did when they were all coming down Euclid or whatever that was there. And I think you guys have probably seen the famous newspaper photos of all, just hundreds of thousands of people jammed down the Euclid corridor there. And but I just, my dad telling me those are the times when now you go, boy, I could really appreciate where he was coming from a whole lot more when he said, son, you don't know. You don't even know what it's like. This town went crazy. You haven't seen nothing. You think they went crazy for the Browns the other day? You haven't seen anything yet, anyways.
Yeah, we'd like to get to the point where the video of our great sports highlights in this town aren't in black and white anymore. So that would be a great accomplishment.
I'm telling you, the first championship from whichever team, you want a new nickname? The Eraser. That's what we're going to call it, the Eraser, because that's the one that's going to erase all the rest. Hey, man, good stuff. A slow Monday here. I mean, we could have spent an hour talking about the All-Star game, but I'm pretty sure that would have been about 59 wasted minutes. So we had a good conversation, even if we did run into the doggone attendance thing again. I don't think you can hide from it. We just got to keep trying to find ways to duck out of the conversation, I guess, until some people start showing up, because it's just going to frustrate you and me and Indians fans, but there's nothing any of us can do about it. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, just keep on going to enough ball games yourself, Jerry, and maybe you'll talk some other people into it. And in the meantime, I got to go get work on a trivia question. So I'll catch up to you on Wednesday, and we'll start that off.
Dan Wismar, you have a good one, my friend. We'll see you on Wednesday. As always, great times. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. We just, random conversation today. It's the slowest week. Football will be back here in a couple of days. Baseball will be back here in a couple of days, and then all is well with the world again. Guys, let's take a break. When we come back, final segment of the show coming up. Speaking of stuff that happened over the weekend, we've still got more to talk about. Monsters had a weekend. Mayweather, Pacquiao, are they in? Are they out? I'm telling you, 50 Cent's got it right. Them boys are scared. Nobody wants to fight. He says one of them scared. I say both of them scared. But we'll talk about that, wrap up the show, set up tomorrow, tell you one more time about the big trivia contest. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of The Fix coming up next.
Listen to the Sports Fix if you want to be my lover.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
I'm Pro Football Hall of Famer Paul Warfield. There's just one place where students are students first and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports help young people become confident leaders and role models and use the skills developed today to do even bigger things in life tomorrow. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth. Down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Ed Doherty, voice of St. Ignatius Wildcat Football, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
This is the Sports Fix What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live as we wrap things up here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Thanks to you guys for being with us. Thanks to Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan for being with us as always. Can't wait to see what he comes up with to add to our trivia challenge for Wednesday. But don't forget, the first question is coming your way tomorrow as we kick it off. Remind you guys again, the Sports Fix 2015 second annual, whatever you want to call it, Tribe Trivia Challenge. It's coming your way. It starts tomorrow. Tuesday is the first day. Tuesday, February 17th. All you have to do to enter, it's so easy. Listen to the show. When you hear the question of the day, email the answer, and if you're right, you're entered. And the most correct answers of the 10 questions wins an authentic Gaylord Perry Cooperstown Collectible 1972 home white Cleveland Indians jersey. A fantastic prize for what I hope is a fantastically fun contest. All you have to do is listen, answer, and win. It's so easy, and it starts tomorrow, baby. So tell your Indians fan friends to tune in as well, as we'll bring you question number 1 here tomorrow. And then Dan Wismar, I'm telling you, Dan's going to pull out some good ones, too. This is going to be a lot of fun. It starts tomorrow. Speaking of a lot of fun, this show, you guys, a lot of good conversations. A lot of good conversations earlier on about non-sports things. And, hey, man, I don't apologize. Every once in a while, you got to spin the wheel and make the deal, man. And today was one of those days. There was no chance in the world that we had 2 hours of basketball all-star game conversations coming. We got a ton of things to get into this week, though. I mean, basketball is going to be warming back up. We get Eddie Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland on in the latter half of this week. Trade deadline's coming up on Thursday before the Cavs start the second half again on Friday. So there's a lot of stuff that's really going to start cooking. Buyouts are happening. I mentioned Amari Stoudemire earlier. I don't see a chance in the world. Cavs have no interest from the couple of inquiries that I've made in Amari Stoudemire, but he's been bought out. His 5-year, $100 million contract bought out here by the New York Knicks. He's now an official free agent. He'll be 5 p.m. Wednesday. He'll clear waivers and allow Stoudemire to sign with any team. But the Cavs, even though they're looking for a big man, not expected to be interested at all, and I don't really want him to have anything to do with it. I wanted Amari Stoudemire back in the day. He doesn't play any defense anymore. He's an older body. I don't see it, but I know there's some Cavs fans going nuts right now about the idea of it. You're going nuts about Phoenix Amari Stoudemire coming to play for the Cavs. You are not going nuts about New York Knicks 2015 Amari Stoudemire coming to play for the Cavs. Please separate the two because there's a big difference. What is it, too, with these guys getting – and I'm not saying this about Stoudemire as much as I am about Larry Sanders, but, this guy, he has got himself suspended not once but twice for violating the anti-drug policy in the league. He's caused problems last season as well as this season. Since he signed a 4-year, $44 million contract back in 2013, he's played only 50 games because of suspensions, multiple suspensions, 2 different league suspensions, as I said, injuries as well. Great player when he's on the floor, but he's really he's one of those guys that is the example of what teams are worried about when they cash in on a guy, when they give him a 4-year, $44 million deal, because he literally dropped off from that point on. And look at him. I mean, he literally has lost over $1 million in salary this season for suspensions and fines. Could you imagine having it like that, where you could just lose $1 million like that? I mean, whatever. $11 million, I guess one's only a drop in the bucket. But here, this cat is going to get paid. If I'm the Bucks, not only am I not paying him to go away, but I'm suing him and I want some of my money back. But they're going to pay Larry Sanders to go away, to go off of their team. They're going to buy out the remainder of this contract that's left, which would be, I don't know, based on my math, they owe him a good 2.5 seasons, probably about another, $22 million is still owed. Easily 20 owed over the next 2 years. So they're going to have to buy that out. You got to think it's going to cost them a big chunk of change to get out of that thing. Not all of it, because that's part of the deal is he gets to go play for another team right now. But come on, man. That stuff bothers me. And the fact that guys can do that and then be rewarded for it, which is what he's being. Larry Sanders is being rewarded with the ability to now go out here and find a different situation for himself. Still got paid. He made all that money from Milwaukee and gave them nothing for what they gave him. And I know this stuff happens all the time, but those situations really tick me off. That buyout for a guy like, I mean, he's going to get paid to go away and never have to live up to that contract, which, whatever. And then some other team's going to sign him, and it is what it is, you guys. But just kind of bugs me. There's two of them. You'll probably see a couple more of those big bad contracts get bought out in the next couple of days, because then they can go clear waivers and go sign with some of these free agents or some of these teams that are going to be looking for veteran free agents or whatever. That's another guy. I don't care how good he is when he's on. How long has it been since he's been on, and how long has it been since he's continuously been on the court? So, and think about this. He didn't in the NBA. You don't get suspended for violating the drug policy until violation number 3. So violation number 1 and violation number 2, you don't get suspended. So nobody even finds out about him. So he's clearly on violations 3 and 4 of the drug policy. So there you go. And he's got his issues. He's got his Josh Gordon issues, smoking the wacky tobacco. Or secondhand smoke. I don't know. Don't want to accuse anybody of anything. Lord knows. Can't do that. But clearly some issues. And the best part is he's going to get paid for those issues. And then he's going to get paid again. You got to love sports. Got to love sports, man. And there's cats on the street trying to figure out how they're going to feed their kid tonight and not be stuck homeless in 0-degree weather. And we got guys that can give away $1 million in fines. Hey, J.R. Smith did the same thing. He's been fined over $1 million as well. You got to love it. Got to love it, man. But that's the world we live in today, the sports world. It is what it is, man. And, hey, Larry Sanders is no sweat off my back. I just spent 2 minutes complaining about him, and I won't be thinking about him again the rest of the day. Just thought that was interesting. Here he's about to get bought out, and because he got suspended. He got drug suspensions, and he can't contribute to his team. So the team has to pay him to go away. That is as ass backwards as anything I've ever heard. They have to pay him. I'm just saying that if I went to work somewhere even if I was under contract and I showed up loaded and I got myself suspended, they wouldn't be paying me to go away. I can just tell you, I'd be going away. Oh, I'd be going away. You'd be going away. We'd all be going away. But we wouldn't get paid. We wouldn't get bought out. We would just get sent out the door. Wouldn't even get a recommendation for the next job, let alone a buyout. So good for you, Larry Sanders. Go do what you do, man. That's the world of the NBA sometimes. World of sports in general with these crazy contracts. And I'm with it when you live up to the value. I know how much revenue is being generated by your abilities on the court, but not you, Larry Sanders. Not guys like you. All right. Done ranting and raving here. Woosah. Let's get back to it. Monster. I get hot about that. I'm sorry, man. And then I start throwing out homeless people and kids looking for dinner, and I start hitting you in all your soft spots because that's where it gets me. Again, not trying to be that guy, but I guess I'm slowly turning into that guy. Hey, Floyd Mayweather, still that guy that don't want none of Manny Pacquiao, man. After stories come out this weekend all over the place that there was a deal in place, $250 million to be split 60-40 between Mayweather and Pacquiao. $250 million to get out there and put on some gloves and duke it out. And they can't figure this out. That much money is on the table. You can build a state. You can build your own city. that with enough money to live, I think, for a generation or two, man, and with that kind of money, that's amazing, and they can't agree to it. They still can't put it down. But the story came out all weekend. People ran with it and said it's official, but it's not official yet, and Mayweather's now saying, well, it's not true. It's not official. I haven't signed it yet. According to the stories that are out, Manny Pacquiao has put his signature on this contract, and it's waiting on Mayweather. Mayweather, of course, denies that and says that the problems are with the TV stations. The TV stations denied that, and they said, we're not the problem. The fighters are the problem. Brother, 50 Cent got it right the other day when he said these guys don't want to fight. He was talking Mayweather. I'm the one that says both of them. I said, man, these guys don't want none. But Mayweather, he knows that this is the one guy that may be able to put that one in the loss column for him, so he's going to make sure that he better make sure he gets paid, because it'll be the end of the day, could be, for Floyd Mayweather in this one. I don't know who will win at this point. They're both past their peak, but it's still a big draw and fight. But here they go again, monkeying it around because they don't want to fight each other. I'm telling you, it's the classic two guys on the playground selling wolf tickets at each other, and in their own head they're going, boy, I hope his mama calls him home before we actually have to go out here and fight. But he's talking a big game, and whatever. We'll see if it happens. Maybe this week they'll get it done. Supposedly, it's down to the details, but it's been that way for a month. And when you got a quarter of a billion on the table, cash in your pockets, and you still can't get the deal done, you're stalling, homie. You're stalling. That's all I'm going to say. We'll see what's up with that. Monsters this weekend. We'll get Doug Plagans on the show here and recap it. Monsters with a couple of up and down here. They were able to take the rematch Thursday night from Charlotte, 3-2. Over the weekend, though, however, a tough one to drop here. Milwaukee on the road, 5-2. Monsters dropped that one. They've got the second half of 2 on the road against Milwaukee coming up tomorrow. We'll preview it. I don't know if Doug Plagans will be here tomorrow and preview the game, or perhaps be here on Wednesday and break it down. We'll have to see what his road schedule is like tomorrow in Milwaukee. Monsters looking to get some revenge there, as they're down in the 20-plus games to play here. Very valuable real estate as they find themselves giving away points that really they cannot afford to give away at this point. Of course I had to start talking about that while I don't have the standings here in front of me. Stats guy. Oh, wait, I'm the stats guy. Let me get some standings here. Yeah, Monsters sit 11th right now. They're 6 points back of the final playoff spot, and they are within 7 points of the top of the final 4. All of the final 4 playoff spots within 7 points. Actually, within 5 points of the final 4. Within 7 points are going on beyond that. So Monsters are still hanging right there. But like this weekend, you cannot. This was a tough one. That was a tough team. You got to realize that was the second best team in the conference over there on the other side, right up there with OKC, just a couple of points behind. There's 3 points behind OKC, who's been red hot all season. There's a big one coming up. They got to try to get this one and split it, salvage a couple of these points. Then they'll be back home this weekend, and you've got Rockford coming up. That's another team in front of you. That's the 4th seeded team in the conference right now, as the Monsters sit 48 games, 28 games left to play for the Monsters. We'll talk to Doug Plagans this week as well. Tomorrow, Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com. He'll be here. We'll talk some more Tribe, maybe pick up on some of the things we talked about today, and ask you the first trivia question for your Indians Tribe Trivia Challenge. It's coming your way tomorrow. As well, Dr. Football, Bill Check is in the house. I'll see what's up with Doug Plagans. He'll be here tomorrow, or he'll be here Wednesday, one or the other. Talk some Monsters hockey. Can't wait to get that trivia contest fired up tomorrow, and so much more, you guys. And you know how we're going to do it. Hey, by the way, I'm still waiting to find out the schedules. Had a great game the other night. South, another good one. Willoughby South, as they continue to have a fantastic high school basketball season. They drew number 5 in the Euclid district here for the sectionals and regionals. We got the high school, the big tournament. I love the big tournament. Every team's in. It's every man for himself, and I love it when I like it when there's a field. You know, it's fun, March Madness. The cool thing about high school basketball is that everybody's in. Every team gets a shot at it, and the worst team has as good a shot as the best team to work their way through the whole state. Willoughby South got themselves at number 5 in the bracketing over here, but man, the Euclid bracket that they're in is going to be tough. I can't wait to get my schedule, find out who. I don't even know who South is drawn in their first game here, but I know that their bracket's got Garfield Heights, East Tech, Bedford, Kenston, Brush, Glenville, Cleveland Heights. There is a strong top half and some strong secondary seeds as well in that Euclid district. So that's going to be a tough fight for South. I think they're going to do it. I've got South making a run. I think they definitely come out of their district, but it's going to take a lot of work. Garfield Heights, that eventually I'd love to see Heights and Willoughby South go at it here down the end of this bracket. I'm waiting for the actual physical bracket to come my way so we can talk more about it later this week, and I'll know which games I'm calling down the run. But going to be a lot of fun. Beginning of March, high school playoff action starting, and then college playoff tournament action starting. Can't wait. My favorite time of year, and I'm really excited about the play-by-play aspect of it this year, calling some tournament games. Willoughby South, congrats to them on a great season, and all these kids, and we'll see who takes the run. I'll have those brackets hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday, and we'll talk about that. Guys, tomorrow, let's do it. Don't forget, contest starts. Indians fans, tell your brethren over there on Indians Twitter, if you know your Indians history, you can win a piece of Indians history, literally, off the back of one of the players. Gaylord Perry, 1972. Cooperstown collectible throwback jersey coming your way. The real deal. If you can win the 2015 Tribe Trivia Challenge. It starts tomorrow, noon, same bad time, same bad channel, live here on the Sports Fix and the Sports Fix Radio Network. Hey, we love you guys. Thanks for having a fun Monday with us. Can't wait to kick it up a notch like Emerald. Bam! On Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow with the kickoff of the Tribe Trivia Challenge here on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
The crime from the gritty, red sick fitted, hood pass over any city that we visit. Winnie up from Cleveland, survivals on my Beach streets. We hustle, don't sleep, out here in Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland.
Okay, now here we go. Welcome to the Cleveland Show.